Yeah, baby. How y'all doing tonight? Welcome in, gatekeepers. How you doing? So there you go, little Hopkinsville, Kentucky, just outside, if I can recall, just outside of Clarksville, where I spent a lovely 2 weeks learning how to be a better PetSmart manager. It was wonderful. How y'all doing tonight? Little tea, little tea. I'll tell you what, put a little too much sugar in it tonight, so I might just shoot out of the chair and fly around the room. There's no telling what we're going to do tonight because I'm excited. And I'll tell you why. The paranormal, it never gets boring, especially when you're around people who you can just sit down, like you're sitting on the front porch and having a conversation, and everybody joins in and, they throw in, oh, I remember that story. And, I heard it when my grandpa said it like this. And, that's one aspect. Another aspect is when you're in it a while and you meet people that dig in and find a way to leave a little bit of them back into the paranormal. And, a lot of my friends do it via history, some, chronicling the paranormal, keeping the old stories alive, like my wonderful friend Steve that's about to jump in here. Some people investigate and want to find out the next thing or the new thing, or they create equipment. We've had many people on the show. Friends like Michael Laciana, who dig into the history and spend a lot of time on a property and get to know the people around it, and just the next level. And then there's friends like our friends in Waynesboro who got the Hoover House and all joined in and are using their abilities and their talents and in new ways in the paranormal. It's an amazing thing, and I'm so glad to have friends like this that I can learn from and see how they're growing in this field and leaving their mark behind for new people coming up and trying to learn. And our guest tonight fits that mold exactly. So let's get Mr. Steve Stockton in here, wonderful author, creator, podcast host, and his own producer, and everything else. Is just amazing, the things he has done. He's got a wonderful radio show, which I've been lucky enough to be a guest on several times, and just a fantastic human being and ready to be a brand new daddy here. I think we're down to less than 2 weeks. If we're not, can I get a thumbs up if you're ready, my love? Okay. I got 2 thumbs up. Hello, sweetie. I can't hear you, honey. I can't hear you. You're muted.
There we go. Had to hit the right button.
There he is.
Yeah, 2 weeks today if he goes to the full 40 weeks. So it's probably going to happen sooner.
You've got you've got your little curl going on.
Yeah,
my son had that, and I used to do this all day long and just twirl his hair.
Yeah,
does Nick twirl your hair?
No, she plays with it, but I was born with that curl in there. Used to be a lot.
No, I meant like you can't help it. You have to.
Yeah. She pokes at it. She likes it.
Okay.
But, the baby's got a lot of hair. That's been seen on the ultrasound. Don't know what color it is, but
it's this time next week. We could all be papas. We could all be mamas and daddies over here, and aunts and uncles and cousins and godparents and fairy godmothers, and it could happen in a blink of an eye, Steve. How are you holding yourself together?
No, just barely, but we've got everything packed up, and I think everything's ready. You're never completely ready, but
every time I think about it, I think of the I Love Lucy episode.
Yeah,
and
we were talking about that the other day.
Just my goodness. Well, let's get our friend in here.
Can you believe it's been 70 years since I Love Lucy was on the air? That's crazy.
How long?
70 years.
No, really.
Those shows came out in the 50s. That's been 70 years ago.
I'm telling you, folks, it goes fast. Look, the wisest thing I've ever said on this channel, not that there's ever been anything, but you know what I'm saying, is life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes.
Yeah.
So choose wisely, and I suggest a double ply lifeline. Again, get a parallel life if you can. It's always a bonus. All right, so tonight, as you saw in the intro there, Steve, we're going Hopkinsville, Kentucky. You got your traveling shoes on, And
Yep. And
like I
just
said,
little secret here. Last week I had Eric on my show and pre-recorded. It won't play until this coming Sunday.
uh-oh.
So we talked to the
So,
people in the future that'll be watching this episode tonight.
so
We
what we
said
have
hi
is a
to you.
paradox. We
Yeah.
have a fucking paradox. Thank you so much.
We have a
You
show
know,
that
is
we
there,
talked
do I need to
about
do
that
anything
hadn't even
special?
happened yet.
Do I need to do anything special about it? I can't handle that. You know,
No.
so it's future. What's today then? Today is tomorrow's yesterday.
Yeah, tomorrow's yesterday,
Okay.
today's
All
tomorrow,
right.
and tomorrow never comes, or something like that. Because when
What
it gets
day
here,
is
it's
it, Pooh?
today. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going either way. We better get there quick for while there still is a Hopkinsville,
But
Kentucky.
anyway,
You know what I'm saying?
you're
If
going to
we're going to go
love
to
what
Paradox,
Eric's got to say. He's got some great
it's
stories
fantastic. Well,
about
see,
the night.
that's the thing. Like our friend Michael Laciana, and he's going to cut off and just go. He's going to go leave and just go to the bar if we don't get him in here. If we're going to lose him, he's going to say, "I'm not going to get on with these crazy people." But this is the thing. I wanted to say this, and I wanted to say it right. That I love it when we can reach in depth, Steve. The way people have found the way to make it their own, and still leave something so cool in the paranormal. Leave it behind. See, now Eric and Roger have gone, and they've got this wonderful property, and now they're restoring it. Not only are they restoring it, they're breathing life back into this property. You know, every property has a history, some, you know, more intriguing than others, but when you dig, I guarantee you find something, right, Steve? We all have. So, and they found a way to bring it to the paranormal, to offer it, you know, to rent it out so you can investigate there, to go and drink in the history of it, whatever your flavor might be. You know what I mean? And I just love it when people find a way to personalize a paranormal in their own way. And I just dig it when there's history involved. I think it's so important, history in the paranormal. I mean, shoot, we spent all damn summer on the Revolutionary War, for Pete's sake, you know, and it's important. And we keep learning stuff every damn night. You think you know it, you know, but you don't, you know. So without further ado, I would like to bring on my friend. I'm proud to call him my friend. And Eric is a special person that you get in a room with him and all of a sudden it's just boom, you just feel better. So Eric, from one of the best doggone podcasts out there, Unseen Paranormal Podcast, my friend Eric. Get in here, baby. Hi, darling.
Hey.
Oh, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see y'all
Eric,
too.
how you doing, buddy?
Good. I after I talked to you, Steve, I woke up Friday morning
We're in a
full blown
paradox.
sick. So
maybe
honey. The paradox is causing me to be sick.
See? Oh my goodness. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You need to take it if you need to take a break for tea or anything like that. You know, Steve is a little somewhat under the weather today. He's just tired. He's so caught up in baby stuff right now. They're about to run him ragged.
Get to take a nap, and we got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Got 3 appointments back to back to back, so I may have to bug out early tonight. But I'm going to hang in here as long as I can. I've gotten used to those naps, and now I'm missing. I didn't used to sleep. I was an insomniac, but baby brain has cured that.
Better get it now because you ain't going to get enough for the next couple months.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's just the way it is. You know, welcome, Papa, but you know, you don't mind it a bit, not a bit, and it goes so daggone fast. It's just like a surreal. You know, for a couple months there, you're just in this different world.
Wow, 40 weeks, that's a long time, and now it's like less than 2 weeks.
It's a different world. You know, it's really something. So, welcome aboard, Eric. How's it going? And how's Raj? How's everything? Ask me how the trees are. Are the trees good?
Yeah. Roger said
you want to hear a quick funny story now? I promise I'll shut up. I promise I'll try, but I have paranormal Tourette's. I'm so excited with the energy here tonight. You know how I get, guys. So I'm just going to be sitting like a monkey like this, trying not to talk too much. But I'm looking through the pictures of the night house, and I love what you guys are doing. And one of the pictures, I saw all of the new shrubbery coming in, like after you guys had done a little bit. And I'm looking at it going like, Raj was there. You know? And I'm like, that's about, you know, $1,000 worth of shrubbery, just like a couple little pots. I know it is, even though Tennessee prices, I'm sure, are better. They can't be as, you know, as good as they used to be. So welcome aboard. Tell us what you've been doing, and you know, please feel free to take a break, whatever you need. And you know, I made us a little video too in Kentucky, the wonderful goblins. So something told me to make it a little 15-minute video, I've got it. So if we need to take an intermission or a break, you guys just make yourself to home.
Well, and
You're
it's the
on,
perfect
baby.
time. It's the perfect time for the Hopkinsville Goblin, because last week on August 21st was the 69th anniversary, and they did a little alien invasion day that we went to up in Hopkinsville. I say little; it was actually a pretty big event going on. I got to meet Geraldine Sutton, who was wrote the books, and that was her
Yeah.
family, and she was there, and so that was cool. And I'm gonna have her on the show here soon. But
yeah, I had her on years ago, and she's a good interview. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, and so next year, just a little insider information, they're going to do a big 2-day Goblin Con in Hopkinsville for the 70th anniversary. So that'll be a lot of fun. But hey, everybody in the chat. But yeah, just been really busy since April. Well, since February, when we started coming up with this crazy idea to buy a historical house. And it actually happened really, really fast. My friend Austin, who I film with, if anybody's watched the Strangely Haunted documentaries we've done, we were talking on the phone one night, and I was playing on the internet while we were talking on the phone, and I came across this page on Facebook, this group called Old Houses, $100,000 and Beyond. And I'd never looked at old houses like that, and so I was just going through them, and I just was blown away by how cheap they were for some of these amazing, beautiful houses that have a lot of the original woodwork and things in them. And it's insane because the younger generation apparently doesn't want them because they don't want the upkeep. They don't want to, rehab them and all this stuff.
Right.
And so,
a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. And so there's these incredible houses for cheap, for cheap. And so I got Roger in on the idea. I said, this may be the next evolution of my paranormal career, if you want to call it that, from the podcast on to actually owning a location, but not just for the paranormal, for the historical aspect. So we had a few criteria that we were looking for. Had to be within a certain distance of our own house, because we're not living there. We only live there part-time. And so our own house here.
So you're able to stay. That was one of my questions. You're able to stay a little bit, like you always think you want to fix up one room, make it livable, then go about fixing the other things, and to stay the first night must have been, but please go ahead.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to spend the first night. Then we've stayed many nights since then, but so we kind of been splitting our time between Nashville and Hopkinsville. It's about an hour and a half drive from us, and it's about 20 minutes. The house is about 20 minutes from Clarksville, like you're saying, Cisco. And but we were looking for a house that had a huge history, just because I love the history. And I think that for me, with the paranormal stuff and investigating, 80% of what I do as a paranormal investigator and have done for 20 years, it's about the history. And then the 20% is connecting to those people.
Thank you.
That you learn about.
I agree.
And trying to confirm some of that history and learn new stories and things like that. So one of the criteria I had was the house had to be named. Because if a house has a name, there's a significant, interesting history there. And so we came across this house in Hopkinsville and went and looked at it in February. And it was called the JB Knight House, or the Knight Rogers House. And the Knight family and the Rogers family were the two predominant families in the over 200 years the house has existed that have owned it and lived in it. So we went and looked at it and made an offer and kind of went back and forth with the owners a couple of times. And I had a dream about JB and Eliza Knight, a very lucid dream where they came to me in my dream and basically told me that they wanted me and Roger to own the house, that they thought we'd be good stewards of the history. And so that was interesting. And the first time we went and looked at the house, we actually left there talking like we already owned it. We were already discussing what we wanted to do, kind of the order of fixing things and rehabbing things and things that need to be done. So it was one of those things that just seemed like.
Eric, are you related? Do you know this? Are you related in some way?
Not that I know of.
Just put that on your shelf, honey.
Yeah, not that I've found. I've dove deep into the ancestry of the Knights for sure, but I haven't gone back. I haven't looked at any of my family.
Doesn't necessarily have to be in this life.
Yeah. So it just felt like, as soon as we walked in.
You know what I mean, Steve? Yeah. Steve, wink if you. He's on. He's tracking me. Go ahead.
it just felt like home. It just felt like welcoming, and they've always felt it. It feels welcoming to everybody, and you can feel them. You can feel the spirits kind of in the periphery, but they're not. Yeah, they're not overbearing or even give you that feeling of being watched. It's just very welcoming. And so we ended up buying the house. We ended up making a deal with the owners and buying the house. And the house is over 5,000 square feet on almost 3 acres, in the middle of Hopkinsville, about a half mile from downtown Hopkinsville. Well, come to find out, this is the oldest house, the oldest residence still standing in Christian County, Kentucky. And it is in the top 20 of oldest houses in Kentucky. And so built between 1850 and 1820. It went through several families that I haven't got to dive into yet. Um, and with the Knights being one of the most predominant, with them buying the house in 1860 and living there until their last descendant in 1941. So they had a 80-year history in the house. Incredible history. They were a really wealthy family. JB Knight was an attorney, but he made his money through real estate. And from what we can tell through our research, in 1860, when they bought the house, they were worth $10 million, which is almost $500 million today.
Whoa. And you can look at the property, you can see it. And we've got pictures coming and everything, folks. We're just getting the background now. But you're saying that this was about how far from downtown?
It's about
The
a half
house
mile.
itself?
Yeah,
Okay, about a half mile, because it was originally 300 acres or something, right?
Yeah, they own 300 acres around the house approximately, and they were never farmers. They only farmed enough to feed themselves. They had cows and pigs and things like that, but only to
Yeah.
feed themselves. It was all
There's a
about
lot of property. I mean,
Yeah.
even for then, because, if you're used to looking back into history and how big these, properties were
Yeah.
for these mega, whether they were, in the golden age, of industrial age and all that kind of stuff, where they came out like the Vanderbilts, just they couldn't get it big enough. But in Kentucky, the thing that threw me back, Eric, is like when you look back and you go, I actually said it to my son today. I said it blows your mind because it's 200 years back in Kentucky years versus 200 years back in New York. So what was the year the house was built again, and the property?
Between 1815 and 1820.
Okay.
So
So we're not even into the industrial, into the boom of 1890s New York and downtown. So you're trying to get a visual of the people and what were they like at the time in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously a difference in that time, in that year, in Hopkinsville as it would be in Manhattan.
So
same fashion type.
Yeah, the Knights did not build the house, but the Knights lived in the area.
Yeah.
They came to the area in the late 1820s from Georgia, and the family originally came from England via North Carolina and Virginia, and then they moved to Georgia. And I found some connection between the Free State of Jones, if you've ever heard of that. That guy's last name is Knight.
Knight. Okay. Wow.
He is a cousin.
Absolutely.
He's a cousin of JB Knight, who owned my house.
Wow.
They're distant cousins. Yeah, and they came from 2 counties apart in Georgia. So JB Knight was born in Georgia, and in the 18 teens. We don't know who built the Knight house. That's why the estimate is between 1850 and 1820 is best guess.
Okay.
The land was probably deeded to somebody for like war service of 1812 or the Civil War, something. I mean, not Civil War, but Revolutionary War or the War 1812, Indian War, something like that. They were probably deeded this huge piece of property.
Okay.
But when they built a house back then, it didn't create a deed, because they already owned the land, so they just built a house on their own land. They didn't have to, get any permission or do a deed or anything like that.
They just show them a big map, folks. They just sit there, wherever it was, and they'd give these big chunks out to. So if anybody who's ever watched like Outlander or any of these old period pieces, it basically they're looking at huge 100 acre 100,000 acres. They're not looking at and they'll give it to one guy and then he can break it up amongst his men or whoever however they're delving this out. Corporations did it too. So if you had your big railway industries and things like that, they'd pay off with these big chunks of land. They were handing it out like it was candy.
Yeah,
they really were. And he wound up with it. Now you said you don't know who built the house, but what was the money into the first one you can track in the Knights? What the money was in being an attorney?
So the money came from JB Knight's dad, RB Knight, and he had amassed a huge amount of property, thousands and thousands of acres, from Iowa to Illinois to Pennsylvania to Georgia to Kentucky. He owned land all over this part of the United States. And when he died in 1843, they had 7 kids. He had 14 kids, and JB was one of the youngest. Well, he became the executor of his father's will, and back then, whoever the executor was got the majority of the estate. So JB ended up with the majority of the property and the money that his father had. And from what I've seen with RB Knight, his was service from fighting in the Revolutionary War. He got deeded a bunch of this property, a bunch of land all over. And back then, you know, in Iowa and Illinois, it's out in the middle of nowhere. It didn't mean anything, but they turned it in. He was smart enough to turn it into money and assets, and, you know, selling it off to build houses and things like that. So his wealth he passed down to JB and a couple of his other sons as well. And so, and we have, the crazy thing about this house is that you never get, that I've never seen before, is that there are 2 photo books, old photo albums full of original letters, original documents.
Wow.
From the Knight family. I even have the 3-page handwritten will of RB Knight that is notarized and everything. So there's receipts in there, and they're dealing with money in the hundreds of dollars. Like $900 was left to one of JB's brothers. Well, if you multiply that by about $40 in today's money, you know, you're looking at a lot of money back then. So a lot of money changed hands when RB Knight died. And that is when, and then JB was already he was already an attorney. He was also already in the, hey, Brian, he was also already in the real estate business. The first house that I found that he sold was a house in Elkton, Kentucky, which is not far from Hopkinsville, that he lived in the 1830s. And when they started having kids, he got married. They had their first kid in 1845. When the late 1830s, he sold that house in Elkton to a friend of his, and they moved into Hopkinsville. And I haven't found where they moved in Hopkinsville, but he bought and sold houses and all this other stuff all the time. So then they finally settled in 1860 in the Knight house, and they ended up having 7 kids. And
all in this house. So they're
they had
in
them all
this house.
before. They had them all before they moved in the Knight house into this house. They had all their kids before then. And surprisingly, they all lived to adulthood.
Wow, that's unusual.
Makes me, yeah. So since they were so close to town, JB, as an attorney, did not have his office in town. He actually built a separate office down by the road in front of the house.
Wow.
And because they were so close to town, and also the street that is built on is called the Russellville Turnpike, because it goes to Russellville, Kentucky, and then on to Bowling Green, and then you can connect into the Louisville-Nashville highway back then. And so this has been the main thoroughfare since the late 1700s, when Hopkinsville was found, is the road that the house is still on today, which is 7th Street now. It's funny that you put the Western State Hospital, because it's about 1.5 miles from the Knight house.
Is it really?
And yeah, and one of the
there seems to be quite a bit of hauntings in that area. You know, that was just a few I pulled off. I was surprised by the goblins. I was really surprised. I'm thrilled about the goblins. Go ahead.
There's another famous resident there that we've had shows about, Cisco. I'll let Eric surprise you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh,
so I don't know what to expect with this paradox. We've got sick and tired, and then we got absolutely, you know, just my adrenaline is just crazy with this. I'm so excited about the history, you know, and it's again, anytime you dig into this and you have letters, I'm so excited about that. I could just imagine sitting down there reading the letters and just getting enveloped by this house, because any of the spirits that are there, they're probably all, you know, rustled up. And again, if we're speaking of spirits, and I don't know how Eric feels about this, is just my take when I'm getting the energy when he's telling me the story, is that most of these spirits here are not stuck. in this house. They're coming
No.
back and visiting because there's so much activity and interest, and speaking of their names and getting into their energy and their thoughts and their movements and everything else. So this isn't a sad story at all. This is more of an exciting, an uncovering of, of a family's, almost, gosh, how many years of this one family? What was it? How long did? Yeah,
80 years.
that's
Yeah.
that's a long time,
Yeah.
And this house, the history of the house, But
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
We can actually.
You have
do
a
the
picture of the house
slideshow.
you can throw up just so they can see what we're talking about.
I've
I
got
don't
a
want to
slideshow.
touch the lineup you have here, but I'd love for them to see the house that we're talking about. Mine went by so fast in that video.
Yeah. The slideshow down at the bottom says Night House House.
Night House.
Actually has a picture of the house on it. Can you see that slideshow?
I got Night House door. I've got the way it's appearing to me. I've got Eric Freeman Sims, and it looks like a cover sheet says attorney at law.
Business card. All right, the next one over, that's a picture of the house itself.
Got it. That one.
Yeah, we can play that one. And these are just pictures. This is a slideshow, so you can just go through them there. Well, I can go through them here. This
right
is the
ahead.
house
You take
itself.
over, baby. Go ahead.
So this is when we first bought the house, which we've done a lot since then. You'll see that.
Undertaking. Wow. Right, Steve?
Pictures do not do the house justice as far as the scale of it. The house was originally built in the federal style. So the white columns on the side portico to the right here that you see, that big portico, that's actually the side entrance on the ground floor. The smaller porch on the left is actually the front porch. And when it was originally built in the federal style, if you are familiar with federal style, it's very boxy, square, not much to do, as far as like porches and things. So it was very much a very square brick house when it was first built. The other unique thing about this house is that it has always been occupied for the 200-something years it's been around. It has never been neglected or abandoned, which is rare with these older houses.
When was the last time somebody was in it?
The family we bought it from, they moved they weren't there for a year and a half, but they still left the power on and come back and took care of it and everything.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the middle of 2022 to 2024 when we bought it this year. So, but the house has been added onto and changed so many times that we don't even really know what the original floor plan would look like. But if you look at the windows on the ground, that's the basement.
Oh wow.
The windows on the second floor there, that's actually the former parlor. So people would have come in the front porch there and gone into a foyer.
Gone up. Okay.
Into the former parlor. The house has 10-foot ceilings, which is for no reason but to show how rich and opulent the house was built. It didn't help with cooling or heating at all. The front porch, I have a contract that I'll show y'all here in a minute when we get to the documents, that a contractor wrote up for JB Knight when JB Knight bought the house to build that front porch, and it describes that front porch perfectly. JB Knight also, we think in the 1880s, they added the side portico, which is the big giant white columns in the side porch that you see. It's been added onto a concrete, but the original wood decking is still under the concrete, and you can see it in the cellar if you look up in the cellar. So this is the original structure. Basically, is the brick that you see here, the red brick. There's been an add-on that we'll get to. So this is the big yard. And this is after we started landscaping and taking care of the yard. The oak tree that you see on the right was probably there when the house was built. That thing is a good 10 foot across. It's massive.
Wow.
We also have
Love it.
We have a massive magnolia tree that's probably 250 years old as well.
Oh.
Magnolias are slow growing, and it's the biggest magnolia tree I've ever seen.
That's
the magnolia right there.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, the trunk of it's probably 6-7 feet across. So this is the addition. So the lawn part that you see in the middle here is what's going to be the new kitchen, and the door here goes into what's going to be the new laundry room. They had a summer kitchen. So this is the side from the sidewalk going up to the house. They had a summer kitchen like a lot of the houses, which was detached. Well, this new wing on the right here connects the summer kitchen to the house. Well, that's going to be my office and hangout area. But this is after we started putting in landscaping and things. We're fixing to paint the columns too, so
it's getting better. My gosh, how much so fast.
And we put in landscape lights to highlight the house at night, because it kind of sits about 150 feet from the road, and there's really no street lights around there, so it's kind of dark. And so we
Yeah.
wanted to highlight the house from the road. We also cut a lot of the trees from the road so people can actually see the house. There's my walkway that I love that I designed.
Love it. Love it.
In 1979, the house was put on the National Register of Historic Places, and it continues to be on there. The main feature being the unique front porch. This is so when you come in the big column, the side portico there, this is the foyer.
Look at that, Steve. Look at that. Look at those floors.
I love it.
Look at the
floors. These floors aren't original. They were put in by the Rogers family in the 50s because the original shiplap floor was sitting on the ground and it was rotting.
Yeah.
So they had to put new floors in, but these are tongue and groove, 3/4 inch thick hardwood floors. Wow. All the furniture that you see in the house and the decorations are what we have done, what I've done. That's been my main job, is decorating and buying furniture and things. So everything you see in the house, when we bought it, was empty. There are a few things left. So this is the parlor as it is today. I just took this picture the other day.
Love the colors.
They painted the colors. The previous owners painted the colors, and I liked them, so I kept them.
Yeah, I like it.
And here's the dining room, all set up.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and there are 6 fireplaces in the house, and we believe we found another one that has actually been hidden and boarded up.
That's a lot of fireplaces. Wow. Now, who's going to do wood chopping? You, Raj?
Oh,
who's wood chopping?
He will too. So for some
are you going to cheat? Are you going to use an axe? Or are you going to use a drill with one of those?
I'll use an axe. It's a good workout.
Oh my gosh, it warms you twice, right, Steve? We've all chopped wood. Yeah, listen, absolutely. But I guarantee I'm the only one on the panel that's chopped wood at 8 months pregnant. Guarantee you. You know, I'll tell you what, you'd be surprised at the amount of cars that go by. I used to have people drive by and just pull over and chop some and leave, you know, because I was in Alabama. So, you know, people in New Jersey wouldn't believe that people would do that, but people did it a lot in Alabama. But because I'm out front yard chopping wood pregnant, big as a house. You know, so people just pull over for they're driving home from work and just take off their coat and, you know, chop a little bit, throw it over. It was kind of cool. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So for reasons unbeknownst to us, the previous owners put carpet in this room and took the hardwood floor up. The hardwood flooring is actually in the basement in a pile. So we will probably put that back in sometime soon, I hope. This carpet, I hate. It's the only room in the house with carpet. The house like this shouldn't have carpet.
Shouldn't have carpet, yeah.
So this is considered the master bedroom. This canopy bed was actually left in the attic and it belonged to the Rogers family. And
lucky duck.
I imagine it was a family heirloom. The side supports are probably 3 inches thick. It's from the 1800s because it's all peg.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's
pretty
lucky
awesome. Duck.
Yeah, we got to redo the canopy.
Great taste too. I love how you decorated it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Love it.
I didn't want the house to be a museum. I want it to look the part, but also to be functional.
Love it.
So trying to get look the part.
Such good taste. You have such good taste.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a picture of the mantle. This mantle right here on the right, that's in the bedroom. It is that's believed to be the only original mantle left in the house from when it was originally built. And this mantle was probably, because of how fancy it is, it was probably in the parlor upstairs. The rest of the mantles were changed over whenever the Knights changed it over to the Greek Revival, like you see now with the big columns. And so they're not as ornate as fancy. They're kind of more plain. This is the other bedroom. We're going to turn this bedroom into a library. But right now we have it as a bedroom. And I found this really ornately carved bed online, and it's probably from the late 1800s as well. But it's functional. Still pretty hefty. Here's the parlor. This is the former parlor, as I have it decorated now. These floors right here, this shiplap is all original to 1815, 1820. So everything above the ground floor is all original flooring. Somebody asked me if we were going to sand it and refinish it, and I said, no, why would you do that? Then you get rid of 200 years of history.
Yeah, love it. My gosh, isn't it gorgeous?
Rarely do houses have original flooring. So, but as you can see in the background here, the mantle.
Does it squeak? Does it squeak? Do you hear footsteps in here at all? Do they is there a board that's a tell? You know what I mean? There's a board that when you hit it, it makes a noise when you're walking, you know, and you can tell where the person is. Yeah.
For the most part, the house, I guess, because it's 3 foot thick brick walls, because, they didn't have insulation things back then. And the timbers they used are thick, old growth oak that hasn't bowed over 20 years. It's done nothing but gotten harder from drying out and petrifying. So really, it doesn't. Yeah, the house doesn't squeak. The floors don't squeak. They don't move. You might hear some popping and cracking, but if you just sit in the parlor and just listen and quiet, you do not hear house noises.
Wow.
Because the house has been there for so long, it's already settled. You know, there's no settling left to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point.
This is off to the left of this photo. So to the left, you see the red couch. I got a little sitting area there. That red couch is from the 1860s, and that thing, it looks good, and it's very well built, and it's full of horsehair, and it's the most uncomfortable couch I've ever sat on in my life.
Yeah, horsehair.
It's hard as a rock.
Lincoln had, if you guys recall from the Lincoln thing, every time I say out there, he's standing in front of me. He's standing there telling somebody, we were talking about Lincoln. He goes, ask her. She's the crazy. What'd you say? The crazy bitch who did 6 episodes, 3 hours a piece on Lincoln. Go ask her. But he had a horsehair just like this couch, right? Do you remember it? And it was black. And Mary had to have the horsehair. It was all the new rage. So, you know, look at his era. That was even after. So it had to be around that time. That was the biggest thing because it was easily cleaned.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what they cleaned it with? The same thing that Lizzie Borden was caught. She was buying, she wanted to clean her fur. Do you remember that? It's the same stuff. It's the same. It's like an acetone, but it's, you know, they were calling it a poison. It's similar. Go ahead, sweetie.
You're right. It is tight as a drum. That's what makes it so uncomfortable. There's no give in it. It's so, it's crazy how good a shape it's in. But like I said, we didn't want the house to be a museum. So all the furniture you can sit on, I think we have 2 things that people can't sit on in the whole house. So this is the landing that goes into the parlor to the right.
Those stairs. Oh my gosh.
We had to put this handle that you see at the top of the stairs on the left.
Yeah.
That's like a shower handle, like a metal one. We had to put there because they're pie shaped and they get smaller and turn as you go up. They're the weirdest stairs that I've ever seen in my life. And we're gonna put another handle on the other side and another handrail. But that goes up to the,
so you don't fall down and bust your butt.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
The house is actually 6 levels. It goes from a cellar, which is massive. I've got some pictures of it on here. A cellar to a half basement. So you go upstairs to the half basement. Then you come upstairs to the ground floor. Then you come upstairs again to the parlor, like right here where the landing is. You go upstairs again to the guest suite. And then there's another set of steps that goes up to the half attic. So the house is massive.
We're still talking about your horsehair couch, honey. Yep. Oil that thing. That's true. So God, I love the stairs though. You know what the stairs remind? I hate to say it out loud, but they remind me of the steps in the Villisca axe murder house, Steve. How many times we went up and down those steps and we're talking to Dr. Epperly, and I'm like, the way it turned. Oh, you know, that's what they reminded me of at first. But theirs weren't pie shaped. You're safe. They didn't get smaller as they went up, Eric. So not completely alike.
These right here are pie shaped, but they're huge. This is going down into the basement, and then the door on the left goes down to the cellar. What you see in the foreground here is a pool table, and the pool table even has a story. It's been in the house since the Rogers family in the 50s, late 40s, early 50s, and it came from a town called Golden Pond. Well, Golden Pond was the main town that was flooded to create Land Between the Lakes, and this pool table came from the pub, the local tavern that was in Golden Pond, and it got moved out of there, and somehow the Rogers family got it, so it's from the 30s.
And, wow! And we just had Elijah on here from Land Between the Lakes. We just had him on.
Yeah.
Yep. And this is all in similar area. This is not far from Indian Mound, and Indian Mound is not far from Land Between the Lakes. It's like if you get on the tallest mountain, you can see all this at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I love that so much.
So this is the hearth in the basement they would have cooked in the winter time.
Mm-hmm.
The picture doesn't do it justice as big as it is. It is 5 foot wide and 4 foot tall. It's massive. So they would have swung the pots actually into this hearth to cook in the wintertime.
Yep.
And the big hearthstone is gone because they put concrete down here to try to mitigate water because the basement likes to flood. But it does have a root cellar, and I think I got a couple pictures of it on here too.
A root cellar? There you go, Edna.
So this is the old coal chute that actually is under the sidewalk, and it has a metal manhole cover at the very end up there. But an interesting feature of the house.
Now it's at the sidewalk.
This is under the sidewalk.
It's under the sidewalk. So where? So this is where like the coal truck could back up.
Yeah.
And a lot of old houses have this, guys, if you're not familiar with this. In fact, it's one of those features that we hear in a lot of stories because you heard like they got in through the coal chute. This is what they're talking about. So I just wanted to be sure what's on the other side. And is it locked? Tell Roger to put a lock on that bitch.
It has the sidewalk over top of it now.
So. Oh, okay, good. So they can't get in this way because that's I've read more. I think Sherlock Holmes had a story about it, didn't he, Steve?
Yeah, I think so.
Got in through the coal chute, so.
But there you go. You need to take that sidewalk and make it open up. Then you've got an escape hatch there.
Right.
It wouldn't be bad, put little steps in there. I love the floors.
From the root cellar, there's a tunnel that's like 3 foot by 3 foot square that goes across the house and comes out under what's the new kitchen and stuff. Well, that area is 4 foot tall from the ground to the floor above. And so they just put lighting in all the way down through there. And so I'm trying to get them to put a hatch in the kitchen, where you flip the rug back and open the hatch.
You got to get the big circular pull, like a Vincent Price thingamajigger. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Roger and his guy, they're not going for it. So
no.
I was trying to talk him into it.
Oh well.
Before we batten down the floors, but
it's not a bad idea to have another way out. Just listen, cats don't go into anything that it doesn't have two exits. They don't back themselves into a box. You ever notice that about cats? See, you never know what you're gonna learn in Journey. Go ahead, darling. That was beautiful.
The next one.
I didn't know you guys had done so much work on the inside.
Oh yeah.
So fast. You've only had this how long? Has it been 3 months?
August 24th. So 2 days ago was 4 months.
What? Yeah. See what you can do, folks? Do you see what you can do?
There's so many more pictures I could show you of the things we've done. We've completely put a new handrail on the front porch, which everybody can go to the website, thenighthouse.ky.com, and see all these pictures or the Facebook page or on our Facebook page. I put all these pictures up. It's not all about the paranormal, and that's what everybody to know. It's about the restoration and the history of the place too. But there's a whole slideshow right down there that has a lot of the pictures in there. See, that's when we bought the house. There was no handrail on the steps, and we've recently put a handrail on the stairs, and then also rehabbed the handrail on the porch. But I think that's just a slideshow. Oh no, that's a walkthrough. That's a walkthrough the house when we first bought it, so you can see how it was when we first bought it. But you can play it if you like.
Let me see. Oops.
All right, so here we are at our new house. There's the street view. There is the front of the house. It is massive. This house is over 5,000 square foot. It's been built on over the years. It was built between 1815 and 1825. So it is over 200 years old.
So to give you a scale, Roger took a picture of me beside those columns, and I'm 6 foot tall.
Those are full windows.
And it dwarfs me. I look like a tiny person beside the columns. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, because they're so massive, you can't really get from here looking in those columns. Look at how big they're. Like Godzilla could walk in them. And the weird part about this is like what you said, is the bottom windows is a cellar. The second set of windows is the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see this window right here that looks like French doors.
Yeah.
There's 5 of those in the house, and they're awesome. There's 3 of them in the parlor upstairs, and there's 2 of them in the bedroom downstairs, and you can walk right out of them. They're like French doors with their windows.
When was the new addition put on?
Where they would have cooked in the summer, so they would heat up the house. They actually did an addition.
So it's been a couple of different times.
This is the form
when it was first put on, it was put on as a modern kitchen. In the late 40s, when the majors bought it from the Knight estate before the Rogers had it, but they did a big renovation. They built a modern kitchen, but they didn't connect the summer kitchen to the house yet. There was still about 20 feet between the house and the new modern kitchen. Well, in the 50s and 60s, the Rogers family had a domestic servant who lived in the summer kitchen, and they put her a bathroom out there that has pink tile in it. That we're going to keep too, because it's kind of cool. This is where the new kitchen's going in. We have all this drywall and everything now. And then we have a mud room, laundry room here, washer and dryer on the left, and then we had to put a floor in and all that in what was the summer kitchen, which is back here. This was the summer kitchen with the original fireplace We have to replace the hearthstone, but that's the
So
original
much
fireplace.
work. And you guys are doing a lot of this yourselves, right?
Oh, every bit of it.
Every bit of it with your own, just 4 hands. 4 hands.
Yeah, Roger's
Do you see
parents are
what you can
amazing.
do? Do you see what you can do? It's amazing.
We'll be hanging out here.
Yeah. So this is a whole walkthrough of the whole house and all 6 levels. I think it's like 12 minutes long.
Okay.
But,
I'll pull it. But there you go, guys. Go get over there to the website, and this is it right here. And pretty interesting.
There's all kind of pictures on there too. There's a restoration page that I got a lot of pictures on.
Yeah, I mean, it's you guys did a great job on the website as well.
Thank you. I built all that myself.
Did a great job.
But
great job.
Roger's parents
very busy.
Roger's dad, my husband's dad, has been a contractor for 50 years. So they've been there every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday with us, working side by side and doing everything. So one of the cool things on the property, we have some foundations that we're uncovering of outbuildings behind the house, but a lot of the property's grown up. But if you want to play that next slideshow,
which one are you looking for, hon?
It's the one beside the one we just played. It has like a red barn looking structure. Yeah, that one.
That one, okay.
Yeah, so we have 2 garages here. This is at the end of the driveway. The white one was more like a car shed type deal. This red one is interesting because the floor is caved in, and when we looked at it, the floor, there was a door on it, so we couldn't look in this shed. Well, there's another root cellar under this floor, and so I decided to climb down in there and explore, and that's what these pictures are from. Originally, I was told by P.D. Rogers, who's the last member of the Rogers family who lived
those
here,
bottles.
87. He said that they used to keep 2 horses down here. If that tells you how much mud is built up in the bottom of this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he said you could walk down there no problem. This is the actual back entrance. They're actually stacked stone stairs that we uncovered. We did not know any of this was there when we bought the house. We weren't shown this by the realtor. Nothing. And so I climbed down here and did a once around.
Once you get all of that new junk off top, the stuff you'll find underneath might be just absolutely amazing. Just bottles and wow.
There's no telling. Well, just laying on top of the mud, I found a spool from a spinning wheel.
Oh wow.
And this spool has a bunch of different grooves in it. So it would have been probably used to make lace, because you would have had all the different threads to weave the lace. And I found a finial too that would have been a decorative piece. It looks like it came off a spinning wheel, just laying on top of the mud down here. One of the weird features is for whatever reason, 2 of the back corners, they rounded the stones off. So if you look in that corner where the flashlight's pointed, they purposely rounded these stones off in both corners, but the front corners are square.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that was. I don't know if that had something to do with the horses or what. But nobody knows what this cellar was for because it's completely detached from the house. But if you look to the right of the flashlight beam, there's a almost perfectly square stone. To me, I could get my fingers behind it. It's a face stone. And there are rumors, it's a lot bigger in person than it looks here. It's about 3 foot by 3 foot. Wow. But there are rumors that there's a tunnel that goes from here to the house. And so we're going to have somebody GPR come out and see.
This is Kentucky. So I'm trying to think of, wartime, because we have a lot of that here in Jersey too, because of the Revolutionary War and, all that kind of stuff. And then things that were used again in the Civil War, like hiding spots. I lived in a farmhouse that had one of those. So you almost have to start thinking, Underground Railroad, was there anything like that going on? Have you heard anything about that? Is it possible?
We've talked to a historian named Win Radford, who is confirmed in town. He's a Underground Railroad historian for Western Kentucky, basically. And he is confirmed that another house in town was part of the Underground Railroad, and they had a tunnel going from that house into the church next door. He come out to the house. He did a lot of his own research and came out to the house and said that if we do enough digging, we have not metal detected yet. I haven't had time. I have a metal detector, Brian, and I'm working on it. But we found a bunch of artifacts anyway. That I thought I did a slideshow of them. I don't know if I loaded it on here or not.
You might have.
But anyway, Yeah, I'm getting to metal detecting for sure, and I want to find their trash piles. What I want to find, because that's where all the treasure trove of bottles and broken
That's
forks and stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But he
You can
said
step
that
up here for decades. Yeah.
he said that we very well may find a connection to the Underground Railroad.
Okay.
The Knights, there's only one census that I found. It was 1860 that they owned 15 enslaved people. Otherwise, there was no enslaved people on any other census that I found of theirs. So
yeah,
they were not big slave owners.
Yep. Everybody's on the same track over here, Eric. We're all saying, yeah.
Yep. So what makes that connection, what will probably make that connection, if I can prove it, is that Carrie, the oldest daughter of the Knights, she married John Harding. John Harding was an evangelical preacher who they had 3 kids together, and then she died of tuberculosis at the age 25. When she died, he moved to Nashville, and he helped start David Lipscomb College in Nashville. He also helped shape the Church of Christ to be what it is today. There are roads named after him in Nashville. We have Harding Pike and a bunch of other things. His family went on to do lots of really good things in Middle Tennessee. One of his sons from his second marriage, Benjamin, went and founded one of the first Tennessee State Orphanage in Columbia, Tennessee. It's still standing. Okay, I have artifacts in here. All right. Okay. The orphanage is still standing. He ran it for 30 years and was an amazing person and did lots of good things. But anyway, the Hardings, he believes that John Harding would be the key to the Underground Railroad stuff, because he did live in the Knight house while him and Carrie were married until she passed away. So the Knights, so Carrie died, their oldest daughter, their second youngest daughter, Katie, she died right before Carrie did of tuberculosis as well, and she was 17 or 18. She was the youngest of their children to die. So now I'm getting into some of the artifacts that we found around the house. All of these shards of china were in the dirt, right?
Where's the armory at?
So all of these shards of china, broken china, were in the dirt under the summer kitchen. So before we put a floor down, we did a little archaeological dig and found all these china shards. Some of them are from the 40s, from the 1900s. The ones that you see with the crack lines on them, those are from the 1800s.
Yeah.
Probably would have belonged to the Knights. How they got all in that dirt under the floor, I don't know. They must have had like a trash hole or something. When they broke a plate, they hit it.
Yeah.
Maybe the enslaved people hit it so they wouldn't get in trouble. I don't know, but there was lots of pottery, lots of china under the floor. We probably could have pulled out way more. And some of it I've been able to put it together like puzzle pieces, like you can see the patterns and things. So there's the spool I was talking about.
Right. All the different threads. If you've ever seen anybody do that, making lace, I know Aunt Edna knows what I'm talking about, and probably Vixen too. But that's amazing. And the wood's still there, Steve.
Yeah.
It didn't, decay. It's amazing.
And that was laying on top of the ground in that cellar, the outdoor cellar. So this is a 2-foot hand wrought iron spike that we found in the wall. And it would have been between 2 timbers in the corner to hold the 2 timbers together. And it was just like, we didn't take it out of the timbers. It was just laying in the wall. But that's something we found in the summer kitchen as well. But it would have been it's square. So it would have been hand forged.
Hand forged, yeah.
We have lots of stuff around the house that has square nails in it too. Hand forged square nails.
Yeah.
So these are from the 1860s.
Wow.
The decorative lock covers. This is other stuff that we found. The horseshoe is not just like a lucky horseshoe that people would have had around.
Look at that.
That horseshoe actually has a worn spot where it's actually worn by a horse. And so then in the middle,
the doorknobs.
Yeah.
Remember those doorknobs? Wow. My gosh.
These are called Bennington clay doorknobs. They were invented in 1849 in Bennington, Vermont. And they're actual clay. We thought at first they were wood, but it's actual clay. It's a process that they make those. But they would have been put in the house by the Knights in the 1860s because that's when they would have been popular. But they're pretty cool. They had a lot of depth to them and things. We found several of those we're going to put back in the house. This is a double mule yoke. So it would hang on their necks to pull the plow or buggy. I would say this one because of how fancy cut it is. And I was talking to the historian. We have Mr. Turner, who's 76 years old. He's been the Christian County historian for 50 years. He comes out to the house periodically, and he was out actually this past Saturday, and I showed it to him. And we seem to think this was probably used for the mules to pull a buggy because of how fancy it is. Because normally it would just be a solid piece of wood to go around their necks. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
We found this weekend.
No way.
Hand-carved Sir Walter Raleigh pipe from Italy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
we
gosh.
also found this wooden duck decoy. It would have been a decoy that floated. And you can see the hand marks on it where it was hand carved and sanded. Pretty neat stuff found in the house.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's creepy.
Little baby arm under the front steps.
Wow. That's just creepy.
Yeah. So now we can go to the documents one, the very first one that looks like a business card.
Some right here. Sure.
Yeah. So this is cool. Actually, I have this. Now we're going to go through some of the documents that are in the 2 books of hundreds of original documents that I have from the Knights.
Now you found the documents in the home, or you got them from the Historical Society?
I got them from the previous owner. They've been handed down from owner to owner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this is an actual original JB Knight business card. And I find it funny that they even had business cards because it's not like they could put a phone number on them, right? It just says JB Knight Attorney at Law,
Yeah.
But it's actual business card, and it's got a fancy edge on it, like you can see the striped edge.
It sure does.
And there's a bunch of these letters. This is the oldest one. I was talking earlier about the house
1833.
That JB Knight sold in Elkton, Kentucky. This is the letter of his friend that he sold it to, paying him $238. And it's funny because he's joking in this letter down in the bottom that he didn't send the 30 cents because he didn't think it would it wasn't proper to mail change. He would give it to him next time he saw him.
Next time he saw him.
Yeah, but $238, multiply that by 40. That would be in today's money what the house cost.
Wow, look at this handwriting. This is what I mean, folks. The handwriting was everything. It was your education. It wasn't just your, the way you spoke. It was how you wrote. That's amazing.
So this blue paper that you see right here, the Knights used it a lot. And it just was just to show their wealth. That's all it was. And
really.
The fact that it was lined as well. It has lines on it, like notebook paper.
It's big stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And up in the right corner, you can kind of see it. A lot of them have a stamped mark in them.
Like an embossing?
Like an embossing, yeah. A lot of these letters, you see all the fold lines?
Right.
And you see this little hole on the left in the middle?
Yes.
That hole is from where the original wax seal is still attached to the paper. So if you look directly across to the right side, you can see it kind of coming through in a red kind of rusty mark. The wax seal is
folded up and handed over.
So what they did was they folded it into their own envelope. So on the back side of this is actually the postmark and everything too. So they folded it into an envelope like origami and sealed it shut with a wax seal.
They sure did, just like Washington passed back letters back and forth. We saw them writing it out, powdering it up so it wouldn't smudge, folding it, sealing it, and handing it to the officer. Done. Yeah, amazing.
So this is from 1842, November 14th, 1842. A lot of this stuff is just receipts and things, business stuff.
Right. Writing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the writing's amazing.
Yeah. And this was done with a quill. This right here was done with a quill. You could tell by the calligraphy of it. Yeah.
There are a lot of them that are done with quill pens, with a quill and ink. It's insane. There are hundreds of these documents that I have.
Wow.
Like this one, $1,000. For payment for something. I got tax receipts.
They all tell a story.
Yeah. Yeah. And they tell us more about the history and also more about it's amazing when you look at how people wrote letters, you can tell a lot about their personality too.
Yes. Yes.
So you kind of get that personality in there where you otherwise wouldn't have. But the letters run from the one from 1833 all the way up until the 1850s. And but this is like a ledger. So there's ledgers in there where they would charge stuff at the hardware store, and then they would pay the balance at the end of the year. So that's what this is for
Put it
Robert
on my
B.
tab.
Knight. Yeah, Robert B. Knight, 1843. So this is the year that he died. So this is a tab for all of his will stuff. So everything to do with his probate.
Mm-hmm.
And this was all tallied up to be paid after everything went through probate, his state did. Here's another one from R.B. Knight, Esquire. He was an attorney as well, the Esquire, which is a receipt as well. But amazing stuff. This is on the other side of that same piece of paper. So a lot of their stuff written on both
Even
sides.
the paper is amazing, you know.
Yeah, and I'm digitizing all of this. And before anybody goes crazy on me, the photo albums that they're in are magnetic. The letters are not stuck. There's no adhesive.
Right.
They have been in those photo albums now for, I would probably imagine, 50 years, and they haven't degraded. But I'm digitizing. I'm putting everything in acid-free plastic and all that, and preserving all of the stuff. So hopefully it lasts another, 150 years.
That'd be great.
Here's more stuff. Just different things. Like I said, different ledgers. $2,350. That one. So they're dealing in big money back
There's
then.
so much personality, like you said, in the handwriting, where you can literally break these up, like match them up, the ones that have signatures for sure, but some amateur analyzing as well. And we just told the story last night where we found a spy, one of Washington's Culper ring that no one had identified for almost 200 years. And in 1930 they found letters in an attic in a case, and this guy knew enough to take it and analyze it, matched it up with a merchant signature, and found Townsend. I mean, once you got them together, it was amazing. So there's so much to this. Don't let them not teach your grandkids cursive. You do it. So you can read this.
You can't read our founding documents.
Exactly.
Either.
Exactly.
But yeah, this tells you one of the funniest ones that I just get a kick out of is a letter that was to Katie, the youngest daughter, before she died, when she was probably 15 or 16, before she died of TB. One of their cousins wrote her several letters that are in this. And it's funny seeing how the teenage girls back then are exactly the same as they are now. Because in the letters, they're gossiping about people and gossiping about their family. And the cousin, when she writes Kate, she kind of pokes fun at Kate because she says, well, my family's not as rich as yours, so we only have one enslaved person, where you have multiple to teach you how to do everything. But she's talking about how their enslaved lady was teaching her how to cook, and that she's a better cook than Katie because Katie is taking care of all these enslaved house people, to where they only have one slave, so she has to learn how to do everything herself. And it's interesting to see a snapshot. That was just their life. We think that's horrible, but that's just,
that was their life.
Yeah.
And the way they talk like that. So much of what you're saying tonight is hearkening back to the Revolutionary War and around then. Same. 16-year-old girls, 16-year-old guys keeping journals and telling us how it was in the town and what was going on with the people, the inner, the civilians, let's say, amazing.
So this right here is the actual contract that the contractor wrote up to build the front porch on the house. And he charged $110 materials and all.
Got a deal.
And he was painting it too. He says it'll be.
I see it down here to be painted
by the first day.
By the first. Yeah. And it probably on time. Probably came in under budget and early. Finished early and cleaned his mess.
Do all the work in superior workmanship, superior workman-like style, and to finish said portico, including styling handrail, banister, I don't know what that next word is, valleys, etc. So that's
the whole shebang.
The whole front
for $110.
Yeah, $110.
Sign him up. Sign him up. That's amazing.
Yeah, JB Knight is to pay when completed in good cash.
Good cash.
$110. Yeah.
Not that shitty cash y'all been passing around.
Yeah. So this is the deed from when the JB Knight bought the house in 1860 from the Waddell family. And what I find funny about it is that the way they describe the property. So you go to the red oak tree, and then you go 90 rods to the right. And a rod, I had to look up, is actually 16.6 feet in surveying. But then it would say you go to this old sycamore, silver sycamore or something. It's just weird how they did the property.
That's
And
crazy.
the only property line that we can really figure out is it says that the back of the property backs up to the cliff. Well, the cliff now is Penny Royal Scuba Diving Quarry. It's an old rock quarry where they teach scuba diving now. And people come from all over to get their scuba diving certifications there because they have buses and everything, and the water's crystal clear, and it's 100 feet deep. So they can come and get their scuba diving certifications. And before it was a quarry, it was still a big rock cliff there. But yeah, it's just interesting how all these documents, like I said, it's almost something that's unheard of to buy an old house and get all of this, let alone without it being in a museum or something.
That person had amazing penmanship. I was getting up close trying to see all the little writing. It's amazing. I have a sister who can write absolutely perfect, but if you look straight at it, it just looks like a straight line. You have to get, tell you how bad it is. She's giving me checks for like Christmas and stuff like that. You take them to the bank and they hand it back to you and say, there's nothing on this check. And I'm like, look at it again. That's how small she writes. She does it on purpose. She trained writing jewelry tags the old-fashioned way. So if you had an exquisite jewelry store and you had the tiny little tags, she would write on those, and she trained to be that's where she got it from, decades of doing that. So it's really funny. It's a dying art, you know. I think it's important to teach kids that, especially your signature. Don't just let them do a scribble and get away with it, you know. Tell them to put some pride in their signature. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. See how long it lasts. We're looking at signatures from how long ago? 200 years in some cases.
Almost 200 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So over 160. And the Knight family, they were all interesting characters. All the children, the parents. So J.B. Knight died in 1880, and his wife outlived him until 1889. They had 2 kids who never married and never had kids. And that was Ida and Charlie. They were both lifelong bachelorette. They lived in the house, both of them. We've not found any animal skeletons, but we haven't really dug into the walls. We haven't had any reason to get in the walls, Brian. But I would love to, because there's no telling what we'd find in the walls. But it's all plaster and lath.
Saying about the skeleton in the walls? Yeah.
But
no nuns buried in the walls in the cellar.
Yeah, it's hard to replace the plaster and lath when you tear it out. But so Charlie, who was who was lifelong bachelor, he lived in the house pretty much his whole life. So did Ida. He was an attorney, but he never really practiced law. But in you put up the thing about Western State. It used to be called Western State Lunatic Asylum when it was built. And originally it was built as a wood structure. It burned down. They rebuilt it in the 1850s to the big Gothic revival thing you see now. And the place is massive. There used to be 80-something buildings on the property. So it spanned a lot of property. They don't have that much property now. There's a golf course next door and all kind of stuff. But it's still a working hospital. It's still the only state mental hospital in Western Kentucky. But he served from let's see, it was 1883 until 1921. Charlie Knight served as the president of the board and ran the hospital. And then he became a hermit, and he died in there's a big scandal that he got kicked out of office, kicked out of running the place by some of the commissioners that were on the committee. But and then Ida, she never really did anything. She was always a homemaker. There's not a cemetery on the property, no family cemetery. They were buried in Riverside Cemetery, which Cisco had in the package she ran in the beginning about the haunted Riverside Cemetery, because they were so close to town and they were so rich that's where all the opulent people were buried. Edgar Casey's buried there at Riverside Cemetery as well, and all the other prominent families. But Ida would ride around the property side saddle on a horse in we're talking about full Victorian choker dress with a shotgun, and she would patrol their property. And one of the days when she was patrolling her property in the early 1900s, down by the road on the roadside on the other side of the fence, she actually found a dead body one morning when she was doing her rounds, and it ended up being somebody that was shot and murdered, and they dumped their body. And their body was dumped there. And and this is morbid as shit for me to think this, but did somebody drive by there in a wagon and throw this body out? Or did they have it on the back of a horse? You know, because we're talking about a dirt road coming into town, and they dumped a body, you know, at this fence line. But I don't know, like it's a, I don't know, it's like an Amish drive-by. Like, you know, like what? What? You're muted, Cisco.
Too funny.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I'm thinking, was this path something that the people would walk, or was it so long between places people would be going that they would have had to have a horse or a carriage? You see what I'm saying? Could it have been somebody that was walking and got accosted along the way?
Probably
mugged
back
or
then,
whatever?
it would have been mostly horses and carriages.
Okay.
I mean, because we're about half a mile out of town.
Okay.
But this is also the main thoroughfare, the main highway, you know, to come in and out of town too on that side. But I just imagine, you know, like nowadays
somebody
in a car,
dumped
you hear
off
about
horse.
people. Yeah, you hear about people, you know, throwing them in trunks and dumping people, you know, whatever.
Or he could have been on a horse. Somebody jumped out and hit him in the
Yeah.
head, knocked him off the horse, stole the horse, and left the body.
Yeah.
You know?
So I haven't found. I got to find the rest. I got to find the article to see if the murderer was ever caught. I haven't found the article yet. But I thought that was an interesting.
You're saying
story.
that she's patrolling the property, and this is when the property was like 300 acres.
I think it was
or not as much. Little less.
Okay. Yeah, in the early 1900s, they had sold some of it off.
Okay.
I think some of the property that actually, I haven't found this out yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion the reason that Charlie became president of the board for the hospital is that they donated some property to the hospital to build more buildings on because they're so close to the hospital itself. And looking at the deed, one of the rods was like 100 and something rods or something, which is like a mile and a half that followed the road. And that would have been, I mean, a mile and a half, you're to the hospital. It's not that far from the house. So I have a sneaking suspicion that he kind of bought his way into running the hospital that way.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they had pieced some of it off. Also, the railroad that came through and had bought some of the property too from them as well. So it wasn't as big, but they did not want anybody on their property for sure. So she used to ride around. That was up until I think she died in 1939. She used to do that to keep people off their property.
Pretty cool. Had you ever heard anything about Knoxville, Steve? I know you're getting sleepy and you need to.
Knoxville in regards to.
Around in that area, like the hauntings, and you come around any stories that came out of that area, or were you familiar?
Yeah, from the Civil War, like you've got the Fort Sanders area up in there, a lot of hauntings, and Old North Knoxville, there's a lot of haunted homes up there, and South Knoxville, there are different parts down on Gay Street and so Henley Street, the bridge down there is haunted. All over the place, Sequoia Hills, Cherokee Hills. Knoxville's got a lot of haunted history. So there's a river town, Tennessee River runs through there, and there's a big stop on the L&N Railroad. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in Nashville, Louisville, and Nashville, L&N. So yeah, Knoxville, a lot of haunted history there, especially downtown.
I figured as much. Now, again, I don't know that much about Kentucky, but it just seems like it's coming up a lot lately, and I think it's because, people are digging into this history more. And I think something happened when we did all that, lockdown stuff. People just started shooting off in different areas and digging deeper into some of these things. What do you want to say, Sconnie?
He mentioned Edgar Casey. That's where he grew up. He wasn't born there, but he lived there, and a house on, I think, 7th Street or something like that in Hopkinsville.
So he lived in 3 different houses. One of them is not there anymore, but it was across the street from actually our house.
Yeah.
The night house.
Wow.
The sidewalk's still there, but the house is gone.
Wow.
So you got all this little weird pocket of stuff there. Maybe there's a triangle there because you've got the Hopkinsville, the Kelly Hopkinsville Goblin. You've got Edgar Casey, the Sleeping Prophet.
Land Between the Lakes.
Land Between the Lakes.
Wow.
Whatever's going on.
And the Dogman attacks.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
A lot happening in that part of Kentucky. It's just like in southeastern Kentucky. Eric and I talked about that, where you've got Hellier and all that going on in Somerset, and the weird, high weirdness, high strangeness up there. Sounds like you got the same thing out in that part of Kentucky.
Yeah.
You'll have to, once you get in the house and inside and everything, you'll have to concentrate on the outside, put some trail cams up, to see if you got any, what you might have going on out there. But since you mentioned the goblins, I want to get some hot water. Would you like to go get some tea, darling, or do you want to stay and see the goblins so we don't keep you up too bad?
I think I'm going to take a. I'm getting to sleep. I'm sitting here trying to stay awake.
I know you are. I can tell.
Got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We got 3 baby appointments back to back tomorrow. So if everyone will pardon me,
we love you, baby. We love you, Nick.
Get some shut eye.
Okay.
See you next week. Cisco, Eric, everybody in the chat.
I love you, sweetie.
Again. See you a little further down the trail. Tell your animals I said hi. Good night,
Might
everybody.
be a papa next time.
Good night, buddy. Get some rest.
Yeah.
Get some rest. My love's out there. I'm only a phone call away, sweetie. Good night.
Yep.
Love to Nick. Okay, let's do that. Let's play. This is like 15 minutes. If you want to take a break, you want to go get you some hot tea or something. But it's about the goblins. I found it, and it was put out by Creepy Canada. So it's one of those nice ones, like a Ghostly Encounters or whatever. But it's actually got some of the survivors. You may be familiar with some of the They're all kind of new to me. I know the story from I want to say maybe an old sightings, an old unsolved mysteries, maybe. Yeah.
It's been all over, for years.
Yeah, because 1955, I think it happened. But this is one of the most scariest to me. A 4-hour standoff, Eric. Yeah. I mean, you have to put this in perspective. This was, as they say, 11 people bounding into the sheriff's office. Just
and the sheriff's department and the Hawkinsville police pretty much confirmed it. They said they could not prove them wrong. And that's what the police even told the newspapers back then was that we can't, everything they say individually, and even they separated them and they drew the same creatures. So it's pretty incredible.
Absolutely mind blowing. So here it is, guys. Like I said, it's about 14 minutes. I'm going to get some tea, but I'll be right back. And Eric, you can do the same, sweetheart. Take your time. Go ahead.
When we come back, I promise we will get into the paranormal of the night house. Because
Eric ain't playing here, folks. This place has got it's got some things to go bump in the night, So, all right, sweetie, here we go. A little bit of goblins.
We'll be right back.
We'll be back.
The family tried to settle down in the hope of getting some sleep, but their frightening ordeal was far from over. After the break, the aliens return, and the battle continues.
They did a good job with this, didn't they?
They got to be out there.
Yeah, they did.
In the early hours of Monday, August 22nd, 1955, Mrs. Langford witnessed one of the creatures peering through the window. The return of the creature caused a pandemonium in the house. Once again, Lucky and Billy Ray grabbed their guns and shot at the invaders. The creatures did not seem to be hostile, merely curious.
What?
But the two men weren't waiting to find out where their curiosity might lead. The battle continued until daybreak, when the creatures just disappeared. But morning didn't bring much peace to the house. The story of the alien attack was picked up by the local radio station and newspaper. Whatever the Sutton family had experienced on the night of August 21st, 1955, was now matched by another kind of assault.
There were really two circuses when you consider the events of that time, because the Shrine Club in our area had just sponsored a circus in town that weekend. Now, the other circus was the pure pandemonium of public reaction that occurred in the days following, because the news press services picked it up by means of the local radio stations and the local newspaper, the Kentucky New Era.
To add to the circus atmosphere, a newspaper editor, ignoring the actual
So
description
that was
of the
Mr. William
creatures that the
Turner,
Suttons
the
gave,
county historian I was
referred
talking
I thought
about.
you might know him.
as little green men.
I thought you might.
When the story was picked up by the national media, it was titled The Little Green Men of Kelly, and that name, and the ridicule it implies, has stuck to this day. In the midst of this circus atmosphere,
It's so much fun.
there were
This
people
scares
who
the
were
shit
willing
out
to
of me.
listen to the family's story.
I swear it does.
And it's thanks to one of them, a sympathetic Hopkinsville DJ, that we have an idea of
Oh,
what the
this is
family
so cool,
says
this
these
part.
creatures really looked like.
Bud Beckwith was an announcer on a local radio station, and he took upon himself, out of personal interest, to go to Kelly a day or two later and interview the people. He was the only individual, to my knowledge, with the artistic ability to draw their appearance from verbal descriptions, and did so. And from him, to my knowledge, are the only known existing drawings from interviews taken.
It's like Keel.
And he did it
Point
simply as a
Pleasant.
serious-minded
Moss
individual,
Man.
wanting
It
to
is.
find out more about it, and certainly interested in their physical appearance than anybody else. Without Bud Beckwith, we would not have drawings of what the Suttons thought the little green men looked like.
It does
After
something.
the family was driven out of their house, they closed ranks and refused to talk to any more reporters about what had happened. It was more than 10 years later that Lucky was finally persuaded to tell the story that his younger children had never heard.
Wow.
There may be another compelling reason to believe that they were telling the truth. The children of Lucky Sutton recently revealed that there was evidence missed by the investigators on the night of the attack. Evidence that Lucky Sutton knew existed, but had only told his family members.
My father said
Scary.
that where the spacecraft or spaceship left some impressions in the ground. And I never actually got to see it. It was brought to my attention by my sister that he did take all of his kids and his babies out to the area where this did happen. I was probably too young to remember, but I have an older brother that said that he did get to go and see the impressions in the ground, and there's no way it could have been man-made.
Despite the lack of physical evidence of a spaceship or alien creatures at the cabin, in the years that followed, the police chief who led the investigation said there was one thing that made him believe it was true.
The only pointed evidence in the entire story is gleaned from the interview made in later years with Police Chief Russell Greenwell. Chief Greenwell repeatedly emphasized his several interviews with Mrs. Langford, the mother of the group.
Well, I saw what I saw. And
I believe every word she says.
It even scares me now to talk about it.
And each time he interviewed her, he observed a terror-stricken fear in her eyes.
August 2005 marked the 50th anniversary of what is now known as the Kelly Green Men incident. In the city of Hopkinsville,
Like I said,
where the
next year's
Sutton
the
family was
70th
once
anniversary.
ridiculed.
Yeah.
The
And you
event
just went
was
to this,
celebrated
didn't you?
with a conference. There were speakers going over the facts of the case as they'd experienced it,
It's incredible.
or as they'd been told by
So
one of
many
the
towns.
participants. This time, no one was making fun of the family.
This was a scared family that ran into something that night that they didn't understand.
She's the one I met that wrote this
You know,
book.
it's something
They
that
wrote
they'd
it?
never seen before.
I do believe it did happen because I've known my father for better than 30 years. And I've never known him to ever tell a tall tale like that. And if he did, I could see through it. And this is just one of those situations to where
And he's shooting
I
them.
could tell he just terrified of the whole situation. And I consider myself lucky to know the story that he would be willing to sit down and tell me the story of the Kelly Green Men. I'm just glad he got to tell me that before he passed away.
I believe that there's things out there besides us. What they are, I have no idea. Nobody does. But you can't tell me there's not. You know, whatever happened and what it was, so nobody else understood. You know, but something happened. And yes, when I hear about UFOs, when I see lights in the sky at
I know,
night,
me
if
too.
I can't figure out what it is, it terrifies me.
If the truth were to come out about the Little Green Men of Kelly, I would venture the guess to us all that there would be a tremendous decline in interest, because we as human beings are always fascinated by the unknown. We want answers, and yet at times to realize we may get the answer would scare us to death.
He looks like a fun dude.
What really
Is he?
happened
He's
that
awesome.
hot
He's
August
very
night
good.
He
in
looks it.
1955? With most of the witnesses gone, we are left with a mystery.
Look at that. No way.
about
Stop
one of
it.
the most
No.
frightening
Hard
UFO
no.
encounters in
Are you
history.
kidding? And you shoot them and they fly up and disappear and just float off?
Yeah, and they try to say
I
it was
couldn't
just
take this.
it was just horned owls. You know. That's what they try to explain as horned owls. But yeah, so I just went to the
Gas
Alien
bags.
Invasion Day, and this is from Geraldine Stith, who was there. Geraldine
lady.
Sutton. She's a Sutton. She's the one that goes to all the conventions and has, because this was her family this happened to.
Mhm.
And she was a grandkid, I believe.
Grandkid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they give out these awesome fans too, alien fans, and it says
Fantastic.
oh, there we go. Kelly Little Green
Kelly,
Men.
yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
so,
fantastic.
So Kelly is just right outside. It's a little unincorporated area right outside of Hopkinsville. So yeah, pretty interesting. And the gentleman, like I said on there, that's William Turner. He's been the county historian for 50 years, and we've been working with him on our house. And
that's terrific.
Yeah. The awesome thing is one of the enigmas for him as a historian has been the night house.
Right.
Because there's so much we don't know about it. And so for me to teach the historian stuff that I've dug up that he didn't know is pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool.
And yeah, the other day I gave him a copy of the deed, the one that we showed when the Knights bought it, and he had never seen it before. Yeah.
And was he familiar at all with the family? You know, I'm sure they popped up in and out of his studies, and it must kill them too, because I read this is one of the oldest houses in the area, period. Isn't it?
It's the oldest residence standing in Christian County, Kentucky.
There you go.
County,
so that's absolutely significant to any historians, and to have it saved. Now, when I was in Huntsville, Alabama, same thing downtown. You could buy houses, pretty cheap, but people don't realize you can get it cheap, but it's not cheap to maintain it because you have to put so much money in, and just to say you're fortunate in the way that you're so talented and Roger's so talented and his parents, of course, are so talented. It probably helps with his dad's experience, getting through permits and everything else, and of course it all depends on what state you're in. But I just want to tell anybody that's thinking about doing stuff like this, because I've looked into it. You also, once you value the property back up, then, in certain states, they come reassess it. You know what I'm saying? And now you're paying taxes and everything else in some states, they've got you got to really look, because they'll have you by the shorts,
Well, the good thing about Kentucky, because they have an income tax, which in Tennessee we don't. So where our main residence is outside of Nashville, we pay more in property taxes within the city and the county. And to where in Kentucky, you pay way less property taxes because you have an income tax. So their property tax rate is lower. Their tax rate period is lower. It's actually almost 3% lower than it is in Nashville.
Right. So, it's so important to check your state. Check your state before you think about doing stuff like this, because Yeah. And luckily, we have not had to pull any permits for anything. All the permitted stuff, all the stuff that need to be permitted through codes and regulated and inspected was done by the previous owners we bought it from. Fantastic.
So we've just been doing, like I said, drywall insulation, things like that you don't have to have permits for. So we stay on top of that stuff. I've been working with the city to make sure zoning and everything is good. We're gonna have to get a conditional use zoning variance because it's residential, R4 if anybody knows what that means. But if you pay attention to local government, it's zoned residential. So I can rent it out privately to teams to investigate, and I can do private history tours. But I can't sell public tickets.
Okay.
Because rented out like private stuff.
Almost like an Airbnb kind of thing.
Exactly. And they can't stop you from renting your house out. Okay. There's no codes against that, no ordinances. So I'm working with them now. We're going to go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals in October, and hopefully they will pass it where we get a conditional use certificate saying, because we're a historical landmark and you can't just pick that up and move it like any other business, to where we can do public ghost hunts sell tickets publicly to do history tours and all that stuff. And
Very
so
cool.
a big question that I get asked a lot too is if we're ever going to do a nonprofit. We will never be a nonprofit.
Mhm.
I've seen that go south too many times where the boards have taken over from the
Mhm.
owners. Waverly Hills, that happened to a
Mhm.
few years ago, where the owners still own the property, but the board had a 99-year lease on it, so they could do whatever they wanted to it. And I just don't want to ever be in that situation. But at the same time, every dime we take in from the house that the house makes with the investigations, with the history tours, when we start doing public events, it's all going back to maintain the house and rehab the house
Mhm.
and to pay bills at the house,
Mhm.
And so I've had a few people comment, well, $650 for a night is expensive. Yeah, but so is you want Wi-Fi, you want electricity, you want a bathroom,
Mhm.
that a lot of locations don't offer. We have to pay for all that.
Mhm.
So I want people to understand that, like, oh, you want to live stream your investigation all night? Well, I have to pay for the internet for you to do that.
Mhm.
It's nothing's free. So I think we got it priced right at 650. You get 14 hours in the house for
Mhm.
$650. I mean, for a team of 8 to 10 people, that's pretty cheap. So
To chip in, and a lot of places do have that type of thing too. I think it's really good because you can hook into this if they're already doing the conventions and things for the Little Green Men and
yeah,
Kelly. That all hooks in too, because that's what we were always talking about with Gettysburg and Waynesboro. Whereas
yeah,
Gettysburg now has gotten so tight, it's a $10,000 fine if you're caught ghost hunting. And according to Jim Wyrick of Keystone State Paranormal, so much as telling a ghost story on the battlefield. Now luckily all of Gettysburg is haunted, so there's still all the ghost
right,
tours and everything else going on in town, but it's only the national park battlefield official,
yeah,
federally owned. But still you can't sit in Devil's Den with a recorder and do
yeah,
you see what my
yeah,
come on, man. It's one
right,
thing to say deny that there's ghosts there. Everybody just kind of looks at you and go, okay, we know you have to say that, but you really don't believe it,
right,
right?
right,
It's like every time they say that, I'm like, and some of them are downright mad about it. They think it takes away from, you know what I mean?
right,
It's
yeah,
almost like the Dogman Bigfoot people at that, convention, that kind of
yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
so.
We have that here in Franklin, Tennessee, which there's a huge battle of Franklin. They call it the 5 bloodiest hours of the Civil War
Mhm, mhm.
because so many people
Yeah,
died in the
Franklin.
fight in that
Mhm.
short of time. But the director of the Franklin Battlefield Trust, who owns but they have bought up a lot of the old battlefield and the houses,
Mhm.
these old plantation houses, that the director has told their tour guides, if you say anything about the paranormal, you will be fired. Because he is a historian and he
Right,
wants nothing to do with the paranormal, and
right.
it's ridiculous. It's
And you don't
completely
realize they
ridiculous.
go together. I keep
Yeah,
telling people that. I've got
but also
people
the
that are
yeah,
mad at me because I'm doing the Revolutionary War. And I said, well, I'm doing the Revolutionary War for multiple reasons. We won't go into them now, but it's so parallel what's going on now. And if it gives people hope, great. But I also want to do it for the history that we're losing
yeah,
the history. My God, the last 5 things that they've put out that had anything to do with any kind of historical event is so bastardized and changed and downright, just made the fuck up. You know what I mean?
right,
And they're changing names and they're making men, this or they're kids or there's people that didn't exist. They're taking out people that did exist and did things, and it's just nuts. It's like it's not history. History is history. Facts
right,
are funny things, like John Adams said. They can't be changed, and there's no reason to change it because if it's bad history, well, you learn from it. You learn from your mistakes.
right,
You know,
right,
and if war is a terrible thing, well, good. Look at it because we don't want another one. What are you, stupid?
right,
What?
yeah,
Come on.
yeah,
When you stand in a battlefield and you stand in the middle of a graveyard, that for as far as the eyes can see, 360, nothing but headstones. And you're still not getting it all. That should humble any person to go, let's sit at the table. There's nothing is worth that,
yeah, yeah,
and if that's history. Plus, it's the struggle of a family to survive with whatever was going on around them at the time.
yeah,
These people
yeah.
here, what was going on in Kentucky at the time?
See, the
Civil
interesting
War,
thing,
all kinds of things.
well, and one of the interesting things about the Knight family that I'm trying to figure out. So, Kentucky was neutral. They never succeeded. They never did anything. They were a neutral state, and Hopkinsville was occupied half a dozen times, 3 times by the Union, 3 times by the Confederacy. Well, the Knight family's right in the middle of this, right? They buy the house right before the Civil War. They're living there during the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
They never lost any property, never lost any money, nothing.
Wow.
But down the road in Franklin, Kentucky, at Octagon Hall, you have a guy who was just a Confederate sympathizer. He didn't have any children fighting in the war. He didn't fight in the war. He was just a sympathizer. The Union came in, burnt every stick of furniture he had. They poisoned his well with all of his animal carcasses because they butchered them all and took all the meat. They took all of his crops, his horses, everything, only because he was a sympathizer.
Right.
Andrew Caldwell, that built Octagon Hall. So how did the Knight family come out
just unscathed
between both sides?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to keep doing some digging, some literal digging in the back there in the throwaway pile. I mean, you've only started to literally scratch the surface on these things. And I think it's so exciting. And I think that people that are involved there, you could do many things. You could have, local youth groups and stuff come in to help do the yard, and the lawn, and you teach them about the history there too, because that also gives them appreciation, not only for the work that, they put a little themselves into it, but a little appreciation of other things too, once they go back out into the world. Those are great things. And history does all of that. When you get them to stop and look at the ornate fireplace and the tradesperson that came over and did that and got that job and then went and fed his family and was proud of his trade and what he did, whether it was the blacksmith that made that nail you pulled out of the wall.
Yeah.
Your hand forged.
And like when you go down into the basement, when you're on the stairs, there's a bare wall there that you can see the wall studs.
Okay.
And you can see the marks where they use an awl to carve that. You can see every stroke that a person had to do to flatten this log to make it a wall stud. And to me, that just amazes me.
It does me too.
How many hands were put on this piece of wood to take it from a tree to this piece of wood to go in this house, and it's just it's fascinating. And to do it all by hand.
It's almost like too, if you're lucky enough to get fingerprints in a stucco or in or a concrete or something like that. But the thing is, it's so rare because these tradespeople had so much pride in their work, they would have never allowed that to be left behind, kind of thing. Where now we've got kids scribbling in sidewalks and everything else, but now sidewalks are just stamped out of plastic mold, kind of thing. It's just. We really lost something along the way. I'm glad, I couldn't be prouder that you're trying to save a piece of it. So now what are they leaving for you? Because you're leaving cameras on and you're doing the old Peter Underwood kind of ghost watch kind of thing going on where, that famous thing where they came back and said, it's looking at us, know? Yeah. What's going on?
So from day one, on April 24th, when we got the keys to the place. Now we'd only seen the house once when we toured it, with the realtor. And so on day one, we went that afternoon and signed the paperwork at the lawyer's office. Well, Roger's parents were with us, and his aunt was our realtor, and she's been a realtor a long, long time. But anyway, so his parents and his aunt hadn't even seen the house because we went and looked at with their realtor. His aunt didn't go with us. So them three had never seen the house, and we'd only seen it once and hadn't really got to explore it. So we go over, and I had to use the restroom. So I went to the bathroom, which is on the ground floor, and it's a modern bathroom, and shut the door, and I heard a knock, just one knock on the door. And I said, I'll be out in a minute. And I came out, and they were all on the opposite end of the house. So that started it all. Not long after that, Roger was coming out of the new kitchen area into the dining room, and he shut the door and he's locking everything up. And somebody knocked 3 times on the door.
No, 3 times. No, stop it.
And so he's like, he thought he locked one of us in there.
Oh my goodness.
Because it was me and my brother and my brother's fiance. And he opened the door and there's nobody there. And he looks out the window and he sees us out in the yard. And so his parents. Poor
Raj, because Raj, you have to understand, he keeps getting hit with the paranormal in the face. And
he's finally starting to accept it a little bit.
Yeah, I bet. I think he was when we all were at the bash that time too, because he gave me one of the a precious story. when he was just standing out there, was just Roger and I right there at the railing for a moment. And he's just looking, he goes, "Why'd you pick that tree?" And we went through the whole thing, and he just looked at me and said, "It's the only healthy tree in the bunch. Look at it."
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that by then you were there and you caught the tail end and everything else.
Yeah.
But man, that was just, and he was kind of, you could tell, and it was a lot of pride too, getting around friends and things. I'm sure you've had so many friends around you that are just so cool people, and yeah.
So one of the other things that he took from you, Cisco, was spider magic.
Oh,
There's so many spiders around this house. And that's the first thing he said. He's like, "Well, Cisco talks about spider magic." That's what he said to me.
Yep.
But he also told me to send his love and tell you that he loves you and missed you.
I love him right back. Give him a kiss right on the forehead for me. But that's cool. Tell him this about the spiders, because I know I was telling him that, but something's telling me to say this. It's also, they're sending them. It's a good thing. They're sending them because it's the tenacity. They're honoring your tenacity. Is that not beautiful?
Yeah.
It's like the spirit, because again, like we always say on this show, it's the spirit guides and things like that. But they also send things they know you understand and the way you're going to perceive them. See, they could have sent something like that and everybody, "Oh my gosh," but he picked it up in a different way. See?
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So,
it's tenacity.
His parents aren't, they're not big on the paranormal either. If
Right.
anything, they're pretty skeptical.
They'll come around.
But they are. His dad
I know.
The tunnel that I was talking about that goes from the cellar across the house, he was down there working on plumbing, and he's the only one down there. The rest of us, me and Roger and his mom, were outside doing landscaping stuff, and he heard a man and a woman talking in the basement, and he said there's a whole conversation, but he couldn't tell what they were saying, but they had a whole conversation.
Yep.
And things like
Fro
that.
says,
So
the whispers are worse. Yes.
Yeah, I've had that happen a couple of times. Yeah. So we asked at the closing, we asked the owner, his wife couldn't come back from California, so he came and signed the paperwork. And we asked him if he ever had anything, paranormal happen to him. And he gets that look on his face, like he doesn't want to believe in it, but he's had stuff happen, but he tells us no, he didn't. But he said, "My wife had plenty of things happen to her."
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently she worked from home out of the house, so she was there all the time. So then talking to the neighbor, one of the neighbors, who will not set foot in the house. He's an older black gentleman, and he would not set foot in the house. I'm pretty sure that he's seen some things through the windows. And but he told us that the wife used to tell him and his wife stories all the time, about things that she had experienced and seen and things like that. So it's just been something happens almost every time we're there. Every time we go up there, and we're up there every Saturday, Sunday, and then multiple times through the week as well. And stuff.
That's a lot. You said an hour and a half away, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot, and you guys are putting a lot of time into it. That's great. How are the babies? What do they think of it? But what do they think of it? That's what I was going to say. How are they reacting? And that's going to be the big one. I want to hear about that when it happens. Message me and let me know.
Yeah, it's hard to take 8 of them up there.
I know.
We wanted to get rid of all the dust and stuff before we took any of there too, because we're going to do sanding drywall and things. But yeah, we've had so many experiences. The first night that I spent the night in the house, I was in the master bedroom in that canopy bed, and Austin was in the next room over. And about 4:00 in the morning, I got woken up with something like a door slamming, and I thought maybe he slammed the door going to the bathroom or something.
Right.
And I get up, and he's in the bed, and I hears like furniture moving in the same room, and I'm like, oh no, because we were investigating a little bit the night before for 3 or 4 hours, and I was like, no, you had your time. Like, you need to do that when we're investigating. Leave me alone while I'm sleeping. But then those same noises, I caught on camera, and that's the second video down at the bottom. If you want to play it,
white mist or master bedroom.
Master bedroom noises.
Master bedroom.
And this, you don't have to turn up volume or anything. You will hear it. It's loud. And this camera was on the mantle of the fireplace pointing toward the bed, and nobody's there. This is at midnight, after midnight.
Right. Is that footsteps and a doorknob, or
It
what do
sounds
you
like
think?
footsteps at the end.
Yeah.
But there's nothing out of place in the bedroom.
Right. Nothing's moving.
Yeah. The bed was unmade because I'd spent the night there the night before.
Uh-huh. Love that bed. Oh my God, that bed.
Yeah. But yeah, there's nothing. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I've caught those noises. I've caught those noises twice, and they were different noises, weren't the same noises. But there was nothing.
That's so
moved
weird.
anywhere,
Let's
nothing.
listen to it one more time because it was so.
Yeah.
It sounded to me at first like almost like a doorknob rattling, and then it was more like a footsteps kind of a deal, like maybe shutting the door and walking in or something.
Yeah.
Hear it? Like a latch. Yeah. Like a latch of some sort. You know, heavy irony kind of.
Yeah.
Yep. And then second in my emotion.
So this is the second time I caught
that bed. That Eric, that bed is just, there's so much. You've got to feel the vibe on that thing. You know, and not a bad way. Just so much life.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a piano from the 1930s that was left in the house as well.
Oh man.
Really nice. It's called it's a Baldwin piano. It's a very expensive piano. Called an Aerosonic. And
wow.
It's an upright piano. It still sounds nice. I actually got a video, and I haven't posted this one because I'm on the fence about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had moved the camera in the parlor to on top of the piano.
Okay.
Well, I had somebody message me on the Night House Facebook page and ask me if we had heard the piano playing itself. And we've not heard that yet. But I got video the other night because the cameras I have in the house, I have 4 cameras around the house right now inside, and we have 4 cameras outside. They go off from sound detection or motion. And so that's why that one in the bedroom went off and recorded, because it was the sound. But it sounds like one in this video up in the parlor, it sounds like one piano key, just really quickly. Very lightly, but very quickly. It sounds like one piano key. And then another thing I haven't put out there yet because I don't know, somebody else had messaged me, because people have been in this house. Like I said, people live there and people visit and stay there. Messaged me and asked me if we had heard a parrot, because the Rogers family owned a parrot. Well, the Rogers family lived there from the early 50s until 2014. Various members of their family. Apparently they had a macaw.
Okay.
Well, the other night in the master bedroom, the camera went off, and I have moved the camera to the dresser now from the mantle to see if I still get the noises. Well, then the other night I got a recording from sound that sounds like a parrot screeching and whistling.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then it sounds like a guy talking, but he's like mumbling. You can't tell what he's saying.
Can't tell what he's saying.
So I'm on the fence about that, because I'm thinking, could it just be something right outside the window that, is getting preyed upon?
Right.
But to me, it sounds like a parrot. And I used to have birds. I had birds.
And then the mumbling too. The talking.
The mumbling, yeah.
Because there's nobody close enough to that house. I can already tell you that, and you're going to pick up like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I appreciate you being skeptical, because you have to understand, Eric is very analytical. That's why we both love true crime so much. And we don't like the crime. We like sorting it. You know what I'm saying?
Psychological.
Yeah. We're big on that.
But also, I think Cisco too.
But that's why he's careful too. You're not jumping to conclusions, is what I mean.
No.
He never does.
I think also the reason we like true crime is because me and you are too kind-hearted that we could never hurt somebody like that. You know what I'm saying? Out of malice, like people do.
Yeah,
but anyway,
and out of that methodical.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
I love finding those psychos. You know what I mean? I love that. I got you, you son of a bitch. I mean, it might be 50 years too late, but I know what you did. That's where I'm at.
Right.
It's like our own little vengeance kind of thing, and then the ones that get blamed too and didn't. Same thing.
Yeah. And also, go to prison for 20 years for something they didn't do. And off of one person's word or something. Yeah.
Right.
Some liar. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. We hate that shit.
Froze moments.
Yeah. We love Froze.
So
he's got his Andre up here because we're doing Liberty. Look. These are my peeps, Eric. Do you see this?
Yeah.
Do you know who that is? You've seen Turn. I'm sure you've seen Turn.
Yeah.
Historical. This is Major Andre, the guy who it's wonderful.
So I've only ever heard one other story of a ghost parrot. And
Okay.
this is here in Tennessee, in West Tennessee, at a
Ghost
plantation.
parrot. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
At a plantation. And the story goes, the enslaved lady who was the main cook for like 50 years for this family, she basically lived in the summer kitchen, right?
Okay.
Most of the year, because we're in Tennessee, so it stays, we only have a couple winter months. Well, they let her have a macaw, a scarlet macaw, a red macaw. That was her pet. Well, they live 80 or 90 years.
Yes, they do.
So apparently this parrot outlived her and would holler for her and things after she died. Well, the parrot ended up dying of a broken heart a few years after she died, and she died like in her 80s. And they still hear and see this parrot to this day in that summer kitchen. Like through the window, they'll see a big red bird, or they'll hear it, and they catch it on EVPs. That's the only other ghost parrot story I've ever heard.
Wow.
It's on a plantation in West Tennessee. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of bird stories. The best one, I think, it had something to do with, Churchill's parrot. Have you ever heard that one?
Yeah.
And he used to curse and yell about Hitler and shit. Yeah, I just remember.
Yeah.
If I remember, it was very colorful. But I don't think it was a ghost. You have another one here. Is this one? Do you want me to play one of these? Night house door?
So the first thing we ever caught was this white mist.
Okay.
And can't explain it. This is upstairs.
Okay.
So I showed you the weird stairs that curve up.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I remember when you posted this. Yeah. It moves so fast. Wait a minute, guys. Go ahead and explain it, and then I'll run it again. Oh my gosh.
So this area was turned into basically an apartment by the Rogers family, and they rented it out. And they actually the staircase going up, that's the attic. It goes the full length of the house, but half the house. To the left is the weird staircase I was talking about earlier, coming up from the parlor. So on the left here, where the door open.
Okay. Yeah.
The one on the right goes up to the attic. Well,
what's on this side, all the way to my right? Is that a wall? Is that a solid wall? What's it coming out of, the mist? Is it coming out of a doorway or a wall?
So this camera is on the dresser. There is a room that I've got set up as a kid's room.
Okay.
And then there's a hallway that goes to the bathroom that was added on.
Okay.
So there's but there's nothing up there that would create this mist.
No.
A lot of people try to say, well, a humidifier. Well, for one, we have a dehumidifier in the basement, and it's also 90% humidity outside. So why would we need a humidifier in the house? I've also been accused of faking this, which I take personally because, like you said, I'm very
Eric.
I've never fake anything.
No.
But also, if you watch the corner down here by the rug, as the mist goes by, I've been told by so many people, this is not mine. This is what a lot of people told. It almost looks like a feet in a dress.
Okay, because I'm getting kind of a head. That's why I wanted to know because it's cut off here in the picture.
Yeah.
If that was a solid wall, that's always been a solid wall. Was this a renovated room and it was a doorway at one time?
Well, we think right there on the other side of that, there was actually a staircase that went down. But people talk about there's a little trail at the very end. The video, I have it replayed over and over, I think. This was at 5:30 in the evening with the sun shining.
Yeah.
So the other weird thing is, why did the camera kick into night vision?
Wow, yeah.
Because the camera
this is motion activated camera.
Yeah, and right before this, I cut this video down to just show the mist.
Right.
But a minute before the mist shows up, the camera's in full color because it's daylight, as you can see out the window.
Wow.
And then right before the mist comes, it kicks into the black and white night vision. The mist comes, and 20 seconds later, it kicks back into color vision.
Kicks back into color.
Yeah.
So it's obviously has some kind of effect on it. Now, what would change it to that? That the only thing that changes it from that is the fact that it goes dark.
The darkness. And that's what my friend John Curley, who's an amazing investigator, I was talking to him. He's from up Harrisburg area, paranormal up around Gettysburg. He said maybe the mist is not white. Maybe the mist was black. And that's what caused the camera to change. And the mist shows up white. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be something like that.
Well, if anybody's ever filmed in infrared, if you're wearing a black shirt, it looks white or gray.
Exactly.
In infrared. Yeah.
The only other thing could be if it changes the energy in some way. You see what I'm saying? It's, like a solar light will come on if you cover it. Right. Yeah. But is there some other way to make that to come on by changing the energy around it kind of thing? Right. Is what I'm thinking.
But yeah, if you look at that bottom left-hand corner where the
rug it does kind of look like feet dragging.
Yeah, like a dress or feet. Yeah, like Anna was saying, like a drapes of a long dress. That's what a lot of people said.
I think that's amazing, man. I think that's amazing. I remember when I saw this.
That's the very first thing we caught, and that there's no explanation. There's nothing. The house is not dusty like that. So,
right.
And there's nothing to make that dust blow off like that. I've never caught anything else that looks like that, even remotely looks like that. And
okay, so any sound. Was there also something that would have been sound activated if it was making a sound or any kind of static or anything like that? No. It didn't pick up anything, so it's silent.
Yeah.
But it changed the damn camera.
Yeah, from the daytime view to the night vision.
I love that. Now, who was it that gave you the theory about that? It was probably
John
dark.
Curley. Yeah, John Curley.
Yeah, I would go with that because again, we're seeing white. But if it was wearing a black T-shirt, the black T-shirt would have looked white.
Right.
Right. My friend Jeremy Enflinger, years and years and years ago, we were talking about photography, and me like a dumb, just getting into the tech and stuff because I was always just the ghost story girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And looking at and learning and trying to learn because it's such a big part of this now. And I'm looking at this and he said that, and I just went, duh, because I had been looking at all the time. I know everybody in the team was wearing a black T-shirt, but they're coming, you just don't click it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was years and years ago, but I think that holds water. It could very well be dark, but I think too, we also have to keep in mind that in all my decades of experience, I can tell you that the color means something, but it doesn't always mean what you think. So being the fact that something is dark, I still would not put it in the category of, say, a shadow person.
Yeah.
In the category of what that brings to mind when you say it, because I think all these things are separate and the same at the same, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So just because it's black doesn't mean it's negative is what I'm saying.
Right.
It could be dark because it's depressed. It could be dark because this is just the energy it's bringing at the moment, and ghosts can change just like we can.
And that's my theory.
Yeah.
Because everything's on a wavelength, even light. So if for whatever reason that particular spirit's on this wavelength where it's absorbing light instead of putting it out, maybe it's going to be black.
Right.
If it's on a higher wavelength where it's putting out a white light because of higher vibration, if you want to call them vibrations, wavelength, same thing.
Right.
Then it's going to be a different color. And I think that's also why there could be 10 of us in a room and an apparition can show itself and we all see it differently. Some people will see a mist, some people will see a head, some people will see a full white apparition, some people will see a shadow figure. And I think it also has to do with our vibration and how we, perceive them too.
And it can also be an entity that has this ability and is messing with you because trying to throw you off, because I've walked into the room, and so has Eric, with people that had abilities, and just what he explained happened, where 3 different people were seeing it in 3 different ways. It was all the same thing, but it was doing it on purpose, and this is my theory, this is only my theory, I don't know that he was doing it so much to poison the well, so to speak, and confuse people, but it's the way, like Eric is saying too, with the way that person picked it up and the way it felt toward that particular person. So everybody came in there with a different agenda. Yeah.
Right.
And some of these things know that. So again, it all has to do with energy and how it's reacting to the energy that's in the room. We keep forgetting that we bring energy to the room. And
also if you come in biased by the stories already, then your brain may be making up, because your brain will make stuff up to make sense of the world. That's why we have pareidolia, like see shapes in the clouds and all that, matrix thing. So maybe you've already been biased, like we see Commodore whoever, and you've seen a picture of him. So when you see this thing manifest, maybe that's what your brain is trying to make sense.
Trying to fill in the blanks as well. Yeah. And it will do that. If you've ever worked with anybody that's had any kind of brain injury or anything like that, as your brain is healing, it starts to try to figure out what it's looking at. So sometimes things won't be exactly the same. And they are, damn well there's not 2 candles sitting in front of you.
Right.
But there's a candle in front of you, but the person's brain at the time might be seeing 2 candles, and they might not be side by side like a double vision. It might be a different way, and that takes time to heal. And I think we look at a paranormal stuff like that too. We try to bring in our physical to explain. But we also forget that there's this whole metaphysical, there's this whole supernatural and everything else that we have no clue.
Yeah.
And it's interacting with our energy the way we're vibing. And then you've got your consciousness, what your consciousness is ready to accept at the moment. So what you perceive in 1970 and you talk about it in 1980, you see where I'm going here?
Yeah.
It's one thing. But if you go to 1990 and the same story, your consciousness has changed. Your data information has changed and you're looking at it different. And you just, bam, are you kidding me? I never saw this. You know, but you weren't ready.
Right.
So again, those 10 people in the room are all on a different consciousness level as well as a different vibration. And so is the ghost. So it's not as easy as people make it. And I love it when people like you are kick back and you're assessing the whole picture, you know, and you can tell too when even the short times that we've been able to investigate together, we're looking at it on all levels.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the true crime assessment. That's the history and going back and researching, because that's why I keep telling people history and all this is all tied in. And if you're closing the door to one thing, you're only getting halfway there in the paranormal or trying to understand who the hell you're communicating with.
Yeah.
And I think that's so unique now. You and Raj get to go in there, and whether Rod's going along he's on the train, whether he likes it or not. Tell him I'm in the bar car. If he's got any questions, come back and sit down with me. We'll have a beer and we'll chill, you know, and it gets too much. We can be like that meme. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's so funny. And it's, I know Nicolas Cage is in it anyway. He's in a car and there's this one dude, I think they're tripping on shrooms or something, you know, who God only knows. And they're driving and Nicolas Cage has got this like freaked out look on his face, like we just saw something. I can't freaking believe it. And the other guy looks at him and just smiles because he knows it's going to get worse. It gets even. Hang on, buddy. That's what it's going to be like. But it's going to be a great ride. You guys are going to be there for so long, and what it is now is just a fraction of what it's going to become. I told Hoover House that same thing.
I told Roger we have our own Oak Island.
Yeah.
As far as mysteries and uncovering, it's
honey.
Like million-piece puzzle, and it's insane.
The difference between what you and Roger have already found compared to what Oak Island has found in 14 seasons would stagger a team of fucking oxen.
Right. But yeah,
I mean, it's so true.
A million-piece puzzle. A million-piece puzzle that some of the pieces we may never find. But it's the hunt that excites me.
It's going to keep going. Yeah. And both of my sons are just getting into metal detecting. You know, one got one for Christmas. They would have got the fancy shovel, the whole shebang, you know.
Yeah.
So we have all the beach sand out here too. But being able to go out there and do something like that, we got to plan a trip. We got to come out there and help you wallpaper or something. You know, we have another 4 or 5, 6 hands that know what they're doing. Nobody caulks like us, man. We just, I mean, that particular stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we're trying to be part of the community as well, because kind of the motto that we've adopted is that we own the house, but Hopkinsville owns the history. It's not our history. It's not our history. It's history of Hopkinsville.
That's your sign on your brochures, dude.
And I think what sold I just said that to the historian the first time we met him at the Historical Society. We went and introduced ourselves that we were the new Night House Hunters, and nobody's ever opened this house up to the public. And so many people were curious about this house because they've driven by it their entire lives since they were kids and always wondered about it because it's a big mysterious house, you know, that mysterious people live in. And because the last gentleman that lived there, he was a hermit and a hoarder. And so he wouldn't let anybody in the house. Wow. You know, he kept to himself. The knights, the last 2 knights that lived there, Charlie and Ida, they were very much hermits and didn't let anybody in the house. And so people were so curious about it. But one of the awesome things,
open houses, the Halloween, you know, all the stuff. I mean, I'm so excited for you guys.
I had a lady reach out to me, and she said that her 5 and 7-year-old, to get them out of the house, she got them into metal detecting because it's like a treasure hunt.
Yep.
And it keeps their attention and gets them out in nature and stuff. And I told her, I said, well, when we get the house and the property to a state that I think it's safe for them to come out and we're ready. So I just messaged her the other day and talked to her, and she's so excited to bring them out. And she's like, whatever they find, we'll let you keep. And so what I want to do is, because we're going to have some display cases.
Oh, you should do that. And put whoever found it, put their name underneath of it and the date. Oh my God. So
if she'll let me, I want to do a little case of whatever they find, however many times they come out of the house, put all that stuff in there, and then put, the so-and-so family, and the year, and see if she'll be okay with me doing that, so that they can come back and maybe 20 years from now they can bring their kids and say, look, we metal detected
I found this.
And we found this. Yeah. And so
them holding it and stuff. Yeah. Oh,
that
there's so many things.
Awesome. Yeah.
So many things. And that's what I tell, Hoover House too, down there in Waynesboro. Same thing. That place could be booming. You could do all kinds of things because it is still, so close to town and stuff like that. Maybe you can get people interested in the history, again.
And the thing about Hopkinsville, there's an entire Facebook group called Keep Hopkinsville Weird, which is awesome to me.
Oh, great.
And so they've been huge backers of us. A lot of the stuff that I post, the administrator of that page will share it.
Terrific.
But we're going to partner up with Visit Hopkinsville here soon, which is the tourist bureau in Hopkinsville. Right. I'm fixing to, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to sit down with the director, and she's got some ideas of how to partner up with us, especially for September and October for spooky season. And also we've partnered up with the Christian County Historical Society. So one of the things that we will probably do this year, they do a parade of homes for Christmas to all the historic homes in the area.
Oh gosh.
And they end the day, they go to 5 or 6, and then they end the night with like a cocktail social thing that they put on, they pay for, and all that catering and all that stuff. Well, they've never been able to get access to the night house. So they've been to all the other historical homes for how many years they've been doing this Christmas tour.
Right.
So they are so excited that I said, we'll be ready by Christmas for you. And I guarantee you the house will be decorated and ready. And they're so excited that they get to end it this year in a brand new house, a brand new place.
And they're so excited. Where did they get a load of that walkway?
Yeah.
That's my that's my favorite. I gotta say, I know why you love it, especially standing there looking down on it like that.
Yeah.
The lights. Oh my gosh. It was gorgeous. I mean, it's just a
little
bit of what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
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 I've got one more video.
Yeah. Is this I see a door here. You want to play that one?
Yeah, the night house door. So
hey everybody, so
I love that chair.
And
the fireplace.
I got the Habitat Humanity.
And the
one door that I was expecting to close and trying to catch on video. It's not closed. The other doors haven't closed.
The doors have been closing themselves.
What?
All French doors that go into the parlor.
The other door has remained wide open, the one that's closed itself several times.
So the one on the right
is still going, as you can see,
has been closing itself.
This thing.
And I go up there and I say, y'all think you're funny, don't you? And so I move the camera across the room.
Closed.
And then the left door closes the next day.
Moving.
Oh, wow.
I caught it on video.
Like I said, this one's remained perfectly open. Camera over there. But this time, I have the camera constantly recording. So we're going to pull that footage. And we're going to see what we catch. Because I have no idea how this thing closes itself. Also, if you remember, move the camera from the mantle there. Because whenever I changed the angle, it would not, this door did not close. So now, the camera's over here on the piano.
Love those doors.
When the camera was on the mantle, the doors were a little bit out of frame, so you could not see them on the video. So it never caught that right-handed door closing. So when I turned the camera to have them in frame, it wouldn't close.
We're gonna check the memory.
But now that I've moved it across the room,
see what we got.
The other door closes, and this is time lapse over 2 hours. So watch that door on the far side. Slowly closes over 2 hours. And you'll see the light behind it kind of bounce back and forth a little bit. But I had to condense it from 2 hours to like 2 minutes.
To show a slow thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any reason that door would swing. Have you ever put a ball on the floor to see if it goes that way?
Well, that door will not close itself at all, no matter where you put it. Also, there's a fan, as you saw on the landing, blowing into the room.
Blowing in.
Against positive
against
pressure.
It. Yep. Oh, wow. Wow. Yep.
And this is at 2:00 in the morning that this started, and it took 2 hours. It started at 1 something. It took 2 hours to close. But see how the light's flashing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That light doesn't flash. It's one of those Zevo bug catcher things.
Right.
It stays on. So the door is moving back and forth.
Right.
As it's closing. Like
it's making it flash, yeah.
Yeah, mustering energy over time to close it.
I know you're going to get a lot of stuff. You should put all this in, and anybody that stays, if they want to watch it, all of the stuff together. It's amazing. And I think it is, wouldn't it be cool if you could get to doing table tipping and stuff like that, and getting some answers and, getting those guides all used to that trail and bringing in people, because that's what's going to happen, because you're bringing a lot of light to this place.
Well, I think that so my impression from them, because I've had a few dreams, like really lucid dreams, that Eliza Knight, who I'm pretty sure that it is, has come to me several times.
Okay.
They've also been coming to my friend Austin in his dreams and various other ways to tell me things. And they always will tell him something that I haven't told him to validate.
Very cool. Yeah.
So the one bedroom,
it's already
the first time this happened, the one bedroom that I was talking about, we're going to turn into a library eventually, because I think that's what it originally was. I had not said anything to him about that. This is right after we first bought the house. And so he calls me the next day and he's like, look, they won't leave me the fuck alone. I keep dreaming about your house and the people. And he said, this lady keeps coming to me, telling me, and she said something about they like your library idea.
Oh, wow.
He didn't know anything about, I hadn't told him anything about the library. And he said, furthermore, she wanted you to know they like what you're doing with the house and like how you decorated. Well, the validation was the library thing, because that told me anything. And so it blew him away when I was like, well, we are planning on putting a library.
But they're coming through him because he's got an easier, for some reason, he's got that easier path. Maybe you were fighting it. You know what I mean? If she's connected to that, it doesn't mean that she's, but she's doing it for that reason. It validated, So she's like, okay, y'all are paying attention now. Now it's going to come faster and more. And, you might even get it down to the point where you can put out look, I can't decide what wallpaper, throw the one on the floor you don't want, leave the one in the morning, and I'll be back in the morning, because they are coming back. They're getting a lot of strength from this, and so right now it's the housing and cosmetics, but what this usually develops into is now they're going to start, they've got such a well-worn path and a relationship, then they start helping people. You see, then people start showing up that meets grandma and needed that one sentence. It's going to happen. Yeah, because that's what's being set up. I love it, man. I love it. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we go? We're about headed out, and I know you don't feel good, and I'm so sorry I kept you so late, but this has been wonderful.
So if anybody who can't make it to the house right now wants to support us in any way, we have a bunch of merch up on the website.
Hey, Night House.
Yeah. We got a couple different logos. That's one of our main logos. You can go buy t-shirts. They are not prohibitively expensive. We're not charging $30 for a t-shirt. They're $15-16 bucks. We got hoodies and everything up there, all kind of merchandise. But also, like I said, we're renting the house out for paranormal investigations. So you can do half a night for $500, and that's from 7 p.m. till 3 a.m. And if you want to go full night with your team and spend the night in the house, sleep in the house, for 14-hour investigation from 7 p.m. till 9 a.m. the next day is $650. And you can book that through the website. It's only $150 deposit to save the date. And also, as soon as
you can do paranormal teams, how many people can you have on something like that for a team to come in with equipment and things like that?
For the overnights, I'm asking for 8. If they
8
have
people?
1 or 2 more, if they have 1,
okay,
because I want to make sure we have beds.
Right.
But if they have 1 or 2 more people, I'm okay with that. And I'm kind of flexible on the half night, the 7 to 3.
Mm-hmm. And Ed has given very good advice here. Just pay attention and write everything down. Get the journal, get the thing down. Anybody that stays leaves their impressions, written in the thing, because you're going to go back 5-10 years later and go, oh wow, that's what he said to her. But it was in a different place. All of these little things are going to put together this puzzle, because they're not going to come out and give you everything all at once. It sounds like this one lady is really, she's on a mission, she enjoys the house. Is what I said in the beginning. They're seeing what you're doing. They know you're loving the history. You're going to feel them right there when you're reading his journals, and it's amazing.
There are two spirits I believe stick around the house most of the time. I think that's Terry Rogers, who was the last of the Rogers to live there. He died in 2014 in the house. And I think the domestic servant lady, her name was Georgiana, who was employed and lived in the summer kitchen, was employed by the Rogers family, and she cooked and cleaned and took care of the kids. for them back in the 50s and 60s. And so I
The
believe
one you said 2014, can you say his name again?
Terry Rogers.
He might have a couple things he wants to iron out.
Oh, I know he does.
I mean, as far as being troubled, not to an excessive degree,
no,
but a few things to iron out. And because when you said his name, he's separate from the others. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And the other ones come and go, just on energy. They got things over there they're doing. They're checking in, putting in their 2 cents. This guy needs some attention, but that'll come later. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Whenever his brother came in,
it's loud and clear.
Whenever his brother came in, they had some unresolved things.
Okay.
And the house energy changed to where I have not felt it since. As soon as his brother left, I walked in the house and it was about lunchtime, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. The energy was completely different. It was chaotic. It was everything all at once. It was happiness. It was sadness. It was mad, angry, all of it at once. And I told Roger, I said, we need to go to lunch and let this clear out. Let him sort himself out. He's got a lot of emotions for his brother being here. Let him sort this out. And when we came back, everything is fine. I think he's the one that's he's the one messing with the doors.
I was just going to say the door slammer. Yeah, he's a door slammer. And not only that, he hangs out mostly outside of the house. There's another place outside of another outbuilding or another place or a spot. Do you understand what I mean by that? A rock, a spot, a spot. And that's where he chills and goes and feels better. But he comes back in, and for something inside brings back the I don't want to loosely use the word trauma, but let's just leave it at that, for lack of a better word. And that reminds him, it gets him upset. He goes back out. He's trying to deal with it. So that'll get sorted later. And these other stronger ones will probably be the ones that help him. But again, he's going to get help, go over, get charged back up, and come back and help others. This whole thing is all about us. I don't understand why we fight so much here, but we're kids, we're learning, we're, a young soul. And something else, again, from the beginning, I'm going to give you this, and you can think about it. I'm telling you, you or Roger, and it won't come clear because you're not supposed to know yet, which is cool. One of you in another life was attached to this house. Yeah, and it called you. It picked you guys.
Yeah.
So, and you'll find out about that later. So just put it on your shelf. I love you.
I'll leave y'all with this. I've had lots of personal experiences that I can't prove, but the most predominant one that I've had, I was locking up a couple weeks ago, and I saw Liza Knight, full body apparition, standing on the landing right outside the parlor. And it was brief, but I saw her that she had a white linen shirt on with the lace choker collar.
All the way up, yeah.
Had a bun in her hair. She's a white lady, and she had on a big bustle dress.
Wow.
And she had her hands on the banister looking at me, and it wasn't evil. It wasn't anything. It was like a look of happiness and approval.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she wanted to show herself, is how I felt. She wanted to show herself for the appreciation.
Well, too, that a woman on a landing like that's almost like a preacher at the pulpit.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean? And it's an authority. It's an authoritative place to be standing, and an approval. And now, how did she leave? Did she fade out? Did she just blink out? Did you go like that and she was gone? Do you have a recollection?
She blinked out.
She blinked out.
I saw her out of my periphery, and I started turning, seeing her, and then bam, she was gone.
Gone. Yeah. Mission accomplished, though. So I think that's really cool, honey. You'll have to keep coming back and give us updates on this. I wish you all the best. And
I can talk for 2 more hours about the hauntings.
I know. History, so. I can imagine. So please, let's come back around Halloween. Give us the progress on it, and let this be an open thing too for people. Look, anytime you put anything out in the universe, the spirits can use it. And, with good intent, we stick it out there. People that are interested in history might hear from, grandpa, or might find the will from whatever, because this is the kind of place it's going to be. They need these places of light, if that makes any sense. And, you guys are just the right ones to do it. I love you. It's been great seeing you. I hope you get better.
Yeah.
Lots of raw garlic, salsa, garlic.
It's going away. So I'm
good. Good.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to chat and everything else. Listen, get over there to Unseen Paranormal Podcast. I mean, it's one of the best out there. It really is. I say it every time, but it's just the way you produce it, the way you set it up, your guests, the questions you ask, all of it. And there's a reason you have all the accolades you have. So if you're not over there, please, that's on all your podcatchers on YouTube and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So he's easy to find. Guys, get over there and support good paranormal work. And this is really something. I bet you Michael Luciano will be thrilled to hear this, how much you're digging into the history and stuff. And you're going to find more plates. I loved your take on maybe they were getting broken. The servants were breaking them and shoving them under throw it under that loose floorboard over there. I can hear it going right now, so they don't get in trouble. I love you, sweetie. We're going to get out of here, and I'm going to play a little bit of more about Haunted Hopkinsville on the way out. Chat, say goodnight to everybody. Listen, be strong out there. Keep your lights on. We'll keep your lights on here for you. See you next Sunday. We'll be finishing up our Liberty, and maybe Steve will be a daddy by then. We don't know. Good night, sweetie. My love to Roger. Right on the forehead. You hear me? Mwah. Love you, baby. Good night, everybody.
See y'all later.
Get better, my love.